His big league career, 7.5 ERA against them.
Look at the defense, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Young, Lagares, and Granderson in the outfield, of course. David Wright, Wilmer Flores, his second game since coming back up. Murphy and Lucas Duda. He had the food poisoning, feeling much better. And Travis d'Arnaud, you're a gamer, my man. 11 innings, 5 hours, back out there.
Well, Wilmer Flores handled everything pretty flawlessly in the field last night. Had a couple of hits to boot.
He had a play up the middle that he dove for. He could have made a spectacular play, but he couldn't get up. But he looked good. He looked solid last night.
I asked him how it felt last night. He said it felt great, except for that one moment.
Yeah.
When he tried to block a throw at second base.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for Keith to tell me the Wizard of Oz song, but we'll figure it out at some point.
Well, the Phillies had been swept in a 4-game series by Toronto before coming here. They didn't play particularly well last night, but they wound up winners. They left 17 runners on base in the 11 innings, but scratched out a 3-2 win. And Ryan Sandberg's team now even with the Mets in the standings.
There's Larry Boa to his right, or his left, our right. Bo, one of my favorite.
Got to see Larry do the thumbs down on the phone last night on the potential challenge.
Larry Boa, when he played for the Cubs, you just couldn't stand him. And then he came over to the Mets for the end of, I don't know what season it was, and he's one of the greatest guys you could ever be around. Just a gamer.
So Dylan G set to go after a rain delay of approaching 40 minutes. Ben Revere at the plate. First pitch of the night is in for a strike, and we are underway. Officially a 39-minute rain delay. Jimmy Rollins on deck. Chase Utley behind him. And a curveball misses low. A ball and a strike to Revere, who was 1 for 4 last night. He's got that playoff beard going now.
Right. They don't have a hockey team in Fort Worth, do they?
Well, the University of Texas at Arlington, Dylan's alma mater, not known for their hockey program. Laced into center field, and Revere has an opening hit. Lagares over quickly to play it, and Revere will hold it first with an opening single.
Well, I'll tell you, there's glimpses of Revere that you see while they wanted him from Minnesota. Short stroke. You know, he's a little guy, but he's a muscle-bound kind of guy. And that swing sometimes can get a little long, but not that time. Right on it.
And he's a base stealer. He's got 11 steals this year. There has not been a stolen base against the Mets with G on the mound, but the Phillies were very aggressive last night, stole 3 bases in their victory. Rollins 0 for 4 last night, which leaves him with 2,206 career hits. Rollins is now 28 shy of the all-time Phillies hit record, which is held by Mike Schmidt. He's already got their doubles record and stolen base record. Revere takes off early. D'Arnaud's throw is a good one, but too late, and Revere steals the base. Revere got a huge jump for his 12th stolen base of the year.
Well, I don't know who the advanced scout for the Phillies is, but the last couple of nights the Phillies have been running wild. Now this is not a good throw, a bouncer here, but what happens to a catcher if the runner gets a big huge jump, he tries to rush it. I think that's what happened to d'Arnaud.
So the Phillies, who started last night 9th in the National League in steals and moved up to 4th in the league, get an instant stolen base. Rollins bluffs a bunt, and G falls behind him 2-0. Ronnie, rain delays.
Yeah.
Pitcher ready to go out there and warm up, which G and Kendrick never did. And the game's delayed about 40 minutes. How does that affect your rhythm at the start of the game?
Never any excuse for guys who have pitched as much as G and Kendrick. I can see it.
Rollins lines one into right for a base hit. Revere to third. He'll be held up there as Granderson's throw comes into Duda. So back-to-back hits for the Phillies to start the night. First and third and nobody out.
Well, I was saying coming to this game that Rollins is hitting .474 against Dylan G, so he's seen it pretty well. That was a conservative play by the third base coach, Pete McCannon, because I mean, Revere has all the speed in the world. He would have scored easily, but you don't do it with no outs.
And you got Utley and Howard coming up. There's Pete McCannon. Utley had a big night last night, 3 for 5, couple of doubles. Right now 4th in the National League in batting at .336. Well, Dylan G has had an awfully good run of it with the Mets, but the one obstacle he's never been able to overcome has been the Phillies. Look at that career ERA against Philadelphia. 1st and 3rd and nobody out. And Utley cracks one to right center. That'll get a run home. Lagares over to play it. Revere tags. He'll score the first run of the night. Sacrifice fly for Utley, and it's 1-0 Philadelphia. And there goes G's shutout streak. Ended after 16 consecutive innings.
By the way, this game's moving a little quicker than last night's game. Aggressive. See this swing by Utley. You know what I love about it? He's not sitting around waiting. He gets a ball over the middle of the zone, gets a fastball. He goes after it in an RBI situation.
And G's really been in the middle of the plate early on in this game. So 2 singles, a stolen base between them, a sacrifice fly, 1-0 Phillies. And here's Ryan Howard, who has just completely dominated G in their head-to-head meetings. 15 career at-bats. Howard has 7 hits, and 6 of those 7 hits have been home runs. It's just an extraordinary number. And we'll see how G tries to handle him tonight. Starts him off with an off-speed pitch, and it's bounced foul. Most home runs by one batter against one Mets pitcher, and the record is 7, but look how many more at-bats it took Stargell and Rick Monday to get to 7. Howard's already got 6 in just 15 at-bats.
So happy when I'm not on those lists.
And the curveball sits high, a ball and a strike. Amazing that Stargell's there twice, isn't he?
I think part of it, Yoel. I mean, the most home runs and Pops. What a slugger he was. I think part of it, Gary, is that there's a stubbornness that makes G so good, that makes him want to somehow get out of this with Howard by challenging him.
So far, it's been nothing but off speed and curveballs, and now it's 2-1 to Howard.
You know, Gary, I didn't answer your question. For guys that have a lot of starts, this is no excuse. And in fact, it's a perfect night to pitch now. If you've had enough, you know how to react to a rain delay. Take your time. And as a starting pitcher, they can't start the game until you're ready. So you take your time.
Rollins at first and 1 out. And Howard hits it out to left center. Long run over to the gap. Lagares won't get it. It's up the gap and all the way to the wall. Rollins racing for third. He'll be held up there as the throw comes into Flores. So Ryan Howard continues his absolute ownership of G with an opposite field double.
Well, just a fastball away, but it's up. If it was down, you have a chance, but nice hitting there by Howard. Interesting that the Mets wanted Lagares to play straight up. Usually when you see the ball in the air off Howard, it's the left center. And Rollins is just outstanding base runner also. And Howard is, at this point, lumbering, I think is the word you'd use to watch him run.
So the Phillies poised for what could be a big inning. They've already got a run home, 2nd and 3rd and 1 out. And Marlon Byrd, who had the game-winning hit last night, steps in. Byrd has been the hottest Phillies hitter. First time he's ever faced his ex-teammate G, and he takes up an in for ball 1.
Well, you know, he's so strong. Watch, his right hip is gone. His right shoulder is gone. But still, he just has enough on that bat and enough on his upper torso to put that ball almost in the warning track.
Infield back with 1 out. And Byrd fouls off the fastball, 1-1. Well, this was the 11th inning last night. Tough pitch. Great job of hitting by Byrd.
Well, you can't make a better pitch by Torres. Just down and away. Broken back. Kept it fair. Right on the line. And ended that marathon.
Gee, just trying to find a little rhythm here in the first inning. No chance to settle in yet as he comes up and in, and he hits Byrd with the pitch, and now the bases are loaded. And it just keeps getting worse for Dylan G in this first inning. First batter he's hit all year.
It's interesting that there was a look by Byrd to G. I found that strange. Trying to couple up and in. You got to pitch Marlin up and in. And the ball kind of just grazed his hand. Looked like the back of his right hand. or maybe the front of his hand. And watch the look. After he gets hit, it was, to me, no, you know what? He looked out and then away. It wasn't as bad as I thought. He averted his eyes after a bit.
So now the base is loaded for Dominic Brown. Brown last night had 2 RBI singles. Both went to left field. Hitting .233 for the year. And the curveball bends in for a strike. Dylan G in his first 7 starts this year had given up a total of 4 hits in the first inning. He's already given up 3 first-inning hits tonight. And the Phillies with a chance for a big inning. G looking for the double play ball from Brown. Another curveball popped up. Tough play. And that's going to be a base hit in front of the diving Lagares. Everybody moves up a base. Rollins comes in to score, and it's 2-0 Philadelphia. Good pitch by G. Just a bad spot. Lagares couldn't quite get there. And Brown has an RBI hit.
Well, nice try by Juan. Just misses it off the end of the glove. Went into the leap. I mean, that's what, 2 inches, 3 inches he misses that baseball. And the base runners, nothing they could do. Jimmy Rollins had to tag up. Howard went halfway like he had to. That gets him to third base. And halfway was Bird. All the runners for Philadelphia did exactly what they had to do.
An early visit to the mound for Dan Warthen to talk to G, who's given up 4 first-inning hits and 2 runs, and the bases remain loaded for Carlos Ruiz. It's funny, there are horses for courses, aren't there?
It's amazing. Wrigley Field, the Cubs couldn't get him out.
Ruiz 1 for 4 last night, hitting at .290 for the year. He takes it off the plate for ball 1. Ruiz grounds one back to G, who knocks it down. Has time to get the force at home. Almost a wide throw, but Darno able to snag it. And a complicated play gets the second out.
What happens sometimes when you have a comebacker is that you panic. And this ball hit pretty hard back at him and back over his right shoulder. And a little panic there, because I think what Dylan G wanted to do was try to get 2 out of that play and almost threw it away.
If he had gone behind his back like he did in his last start, he would have been able to make that play. Here's Cody Ashe with the bases loaded and 2 out. Ashe, the number 8 hitter, 0 for 4 last night. And the curveball bends in for a strike. G trying to put an end to this inning right now. Well, the Phillies have certainly been aggressive. The first 7 batters, he threw just 19 pitches. And finds himself on the short end of a 2-0 game. Huge out for him to get here. Ball and a strike to Ashe.
I know it's hard for you folks at home to say there could be a silver lining here. This out is the silver lining. It can change your whole thought about the inning. Over a course of a start, you might give up 2 or 3 runs anyways. It doesn't matter when you give them up, but you have to get this out.
2 is a lot different than 4. Curveball pulled, and Duda snags it. It's a line drive out to end the inning. So the Phillies get 2, but strand 3. And G able to minimize the damage. Mets come to bat down 2. Brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Lucas Duda talked his way back into the lineup today. Terry Collins didn't think he'd have Duda after he was really under the weather last night, but he's back in there. Wilmer Flores gets a second straight start, and the Mets will try to extend the losing ways of Kyle Kendrick.
Although you asked me about how well Kendrick does against the Mets. He does. 16 career starts, 8-6. Half of those wins have come here at Citi Field. 4-2 with a 2.89. And look at the defense behind him, brought to you by Geico. Phillies defense is not what it once was. Dominic Brown takes a while to get to the ball. Ben Revere has struggled. Marlon Byrd is very good. Ashe, Rollins, Utley, and Howard. I wouldn't say the quickest infield because of the age. And Carlos Ruiz, back-to-back games.
Juan Lagares will lead things off. Lagares has cooled down over the last few games. Just 2 for his last 15. And Kendrick misses away for ball 1. Lagares, Murphy, and right for the Mets in the opening inning. The Mets begin the day last in the National League in hits, last in home runs, last in extra base hits, last in slugging percentage. They are in desperate need of offense, and they've made a couple of moves the last 2 days at the edges to try to improve their offense. Lagares over the early portion of the season has been one of the Mets' best offensive players.
You know, I think though, Gary, and this is my opinion, it's nice to add on the ancillary. But the guys that play every day and the guys that you're counting on to be big have to get better. Simple as that.
Kendrick had 1-2 on Lagares. And it hits him or the bat. And it hits him. He goes to first base. So after Bird got hit on the hand by G in the top of the inning, Kendrick hits Lagares on the hand, and the Mets have a leadoff base runner.
Well, I tell you, luckily this is not reviewable because we'd see this all the time. But he opens up and that ball hit him right on the backhand, almost similar to Marlon Byrd. Hopefully he's all right, because that's the place, that hamate bone in the hand, that can be very precarious for the hitters.
Ray Ramirez, the trainer, came out to have a look, but convinced that Lagares is okay. Second batter Kendrick has hit this year. So Murphy comes up with a man on. Daniel 1 for 4 last night at 307 on the year. Kendrick's stock in trade is the sinker ball and the ground ball.
He developed a little cutter to try to get it inside on left-handed hitters. He's got that little change-up he'll throw too, but you're right, Gary. Double plays are what he tries to throw.
And he gets the ground ball. Utley goes for the lead man and gets the force on Lagares for the first down. So Murphy aboard with 1 away, and David Wright coming up. David picked up a game-tying double in the 8th inning last night before the Mets fell in 11. 2 hits last night. He's got a 7-game hitting streak going and hitting .400 over the 7 games. David is having a difficult to evaluate first 6 weeks. He's hitting .284, which is perfectly respectable. But he has 9 extra base hits, 8 doubles and a home run. 136 at bats since his only home run on opening day. The longest drought of his career.
Well, do you think, if Keith was here, I'd ask him, do you think that plays a part in it? I mean, we give the stat. He knows the stat. He knows he hasn't hit a home run. Does that creep into your game where you say, boy, it's 2-0 here, I'm going to go for the downs, instead of your thought process of, let me hit the ball hard, let me hit something hard up the middle?
Well, you and I and Keith have been watching David long enough to know that when the Mets are struggling offensively, he tends to get a little long with his swing, almost as though psychologically he's trying to hit home runs, and that's when the home runs don't come.
He is a responsible person who wants the responsibility, and he just can't do it alone. There's very few players in the history of the game, Gary, that have ever been able to carry a team during a season.
David hits this one deep to left center field. Back goes Brown to the warning track at the wall. It's out of here! There goes the home run drought. David Wright with his second of the year to tie the game at 2. On an 0-2 pitch from Kendrick, Wright ends that home run drought at 136 at bats, and the Mets get the 2 runs right back.
Very few people can do it. Well, maybe he's starting tonight. 0-2 pitch, right down the middle. Looked like a little changeup. We see Ruiz pat the glove like, what are we thinking? Long home run.
Hit it over the gray wall of Flushing into the old seats. So we start from scratch. Curtis Granderson takes a fastball for a strike.
I mean, this is classic David Wright swing, isn't it? I mean, that back, you can see the muscles contort in the back. And that strength, brute strength.
Granderson hits a one-hopper, and Utley's got it. And that's the second out of the inning. Well, he may not say it, but that's going to be a big weight off his shoulders.
Yeah. I just think he is, a responsible person who sees that his team has struggled mightily, and he wants to. It's only human nature. It's his part of his personality. So that smile, I think, answers your question, Gary. It's just human nature. It's just his personality to want to lead. It's the reason he wears the C.
And you know how baseball players are. I'm sure that his teammates are giving him grief now.
Yeah.
Now that the drought is over. Chris Young 0 for 5 last night. And he takes a strike from Kendrick 0-2.
No, guys will say stuff like this, Gary. Hey, David, wind's blown out, huh? Must be blown out today. I mean, you'll catch stuff like that on the bench.
The Marlins had taken to leaving dumbbells in front of Casey McGee's locker because he hadn't hit a home run yet this year.
They shouldn't leave anything in front of his locker. You know how many ribeye steaks he's got? I mean,
well, that's why they can tease him. 2-2 now to Young.
But we were trying to figure out how Kendrick has a 1-13 starts. Team goes out and gets you 2 points, and you give it right back.
Lucas Duda hitting 6th in the order would be next. And after getting ahead 0-2, Kendrick goes to a full count. 13 starts, 8 losses in that stretch, the longest losing streak for a Phillies starter since Randy Wolf lost 10 in a row in 1999. Three-two coming to Young, and he fouls it back. A little cutter from Kendrick.
Must have been a quiet Wolf pack at the time.
Randy Wolf is still trying to come back, isn't he?
Why not? He's lefty. Pitch forever.
He's got a great toughness about him.
He does. He does.
2 out and nobody on. 2 runs home on Wright's home run. Again, the 3-2, and Young taps one in front of the plate, easy for Ruiz, and that retires the side. But the Mets get their first 2 runs of the game on one swing by David Wright. First run of the game brought to you by your Tri-State Ford dealer. David Wright's second home run of the year, his first since opening day, and the Mets get even 2-2 after 1 at Citi Field. To you by Guy's Grocery Games. Watch the all-new season of Guy's Grocery Games tomorrow night at 8, only on Food Network.
Diners, dives, and drive-ins. That's the guy. It's a fantastic show.
Kendrick lines one right to David Wright. So Kendrick trying to get even for Wright's home run, but David snags it for the first out.
Well, Kendrick is a tremendous athlete, guy that could have been a quarterback got a scholarship, I think, to a big college for coming out of high school, and David makes the play.
He was going to go to Washington State as a quarterback and a punter coming out of Mount Vernon, Washington. Might have been the best baseball playing punter since Darren Erstad.
Maybe we could get he and Pelfrey to go out there and kick the football around. And
Ben Revere singled, stole a base, and scored a run in the first. Pelfrey's on the disabled list right now with the Twins after a miserable start to his year. Jimmy Rollins on deck. G got whacked around in the first inning. This time gets the comebacker from Revere, and he's got 2 quick outs in the second. Well, the Phillies being very aggressive early in this game against Dylan G, and that makes sense for a guy who's usually right around the plate.
Well, that can really play into your favor, though, if you can get some of these easy outs, keep your pitch count down. But, you know, Dylan's got to be so happy as you see the rain starting again. Back even. Had a tough inning and back even.
The rain not nearly as hard as it was a couple hours before the game when it was coming down in waves. Here's Rollins, who singled to right and scored a run in the first. And he takes ball 1. Now you see it all the time with pitchers who throw strikes. It's all well and good to be aggressive if he's in the middle of the plate, as G was in the first inning. If he's hitting his spots, maybe not so good.
Well, I think part of it also is got a little older club, Gary, and they don't always catch up to the 95 plus guys, and Dylan's more of that 90-mile-an-hour range.
That's a strike on the inside edge, trying to keep the ball on roll.
Yeah, he's got to be a little more precise.
Right. Well, G did a great job in Colorado his last start, using all his pitches. There's that good changeup, and it's 2-2.
Great combination. Fastball in, and then change down and away. It's worked for 100 years.
And the curveball fouled off. G went 6 scoreless in Colorado. He went out for the 7th with 105 pitches under his belt, gave up a couple of hits, and then the bullpen did a nice job keeping his run from scoring. Torres and Rice came in to protect his shutout. Rollins drives one deep right field. Back goes Granderson onto the warning track back near the wall. It's out of here. Off the Pepsi porch. Rollins with his 4th home run of the year. His 28th career home run against the Mets. And the Phillies are back in front 3-2.
Well, both these teams starving for runs last night, but that might not be the case tonight. Trying to come back inside. Remember that fastball that he threw in that was precise and perfect on the corner? This one was not. And off the sign.
Rollins, who hit just 6 home runs last year, now with 4 under his belt in the first 6 weeks this year. And now Utley takes a slider for a strike. Utley had a sacrifice fly at the first pitch he saw from G in the first inning. Well, it looks like we might have a somewhat different kind of game than we had last night.
Well, honestly, the pitchers, starting pitchers, dictated a lot of that game, Gary. They both could not throw strikes. They went deep in counts, 2-2, 3-2 counts, worked very deliberately, and I think that got everyone in the same opera.
Well, the amazing thing for both Roberto Hernandez and Henry Mejia last night was the fact that between them they gave up only 3 runs for as many pitches as they threw.
Trying to come in, and that ball not only not in but up. seen Rollins do that a few times. I mean, what'd you say, 28?
28 against the Mets. Howard has 38. Utley pops one up. Over near the tarp, and Young makes a nice snag to end the inning. Chris Young, aware of his surroundings there. You had the stands, you had the tarp, you had the ball boy. No matter, he makes a nice play on this foul pop-up by Utley to get G through the inning. 3-2 Phillies in the second. Lucas Duda will lead off against Kyle Kendrick. Mets down 3-2. Duda sat out last night, was in the hospital part of the day yesterday as the Phillies put the shift on, and Duda thinks about bunting for a hit.
I like it. Why not?
You should think about that more often, especially leading off an inning.
Take 10 a year.
Phillies aren't going to give into it. Rollins stays a good 70 feet off the line.
Yeah, one issue in this, and I'm not, you know, there's plenty of room over there. The only small issue you have is Kendrick is a really good athlete and very quick. It's the only issue.
So you have to concentrate on bunting it hard.
Hard, exactly.
I mean, if you are one of those guys like Duda, against whom they play this kind of shift, you should be practicing that hard bunt toward third base in batting practice every day, shouldn't you?
I agree, but it's not happening. It's not going to happen.
Wilmer Flores on deck, then Travis d'Arnaud, and Duda takes a fastball at the knees. 2-2. Kendrick gave up a 2-run homer to David Wright in the first. Jimmy Rollins' home run has put the Phillies back in front. And Duda skies one foul. That'll go out of play. Well, when the lineup first came out tonight, Eric Campbell was in the lineup to make his major league debut, batting 6th at first base.
Duda talked himself into the lineup. In fact, he had to go in and do. I don't see Lucas as a salesman, but he did. He went into Terry Collins and he got in the lineup.
So Campbell sits tonight. That had to be a hard call for Eric to make, right? He's from Connecticut. His home in Norwich, about 2 hours away, and he had 20 family and friends coming down for the game, and I'm sure he called them breathless when he got it. Hey, I'm in the lineup, and then he had to call him back.
Yeah, the text went to when they were on 95 in New Haven.
Yeah,
I'd turn around maybe.
3-2 to Lucas, and he gets him with the changeup. Kendrick fans Duda for the first out.
Well, what usually happens to Lucas is once they get to a certain point where it's a fastball count, he is just going to always see that split finger changeup that Kendrick throws, or a breaking ball. Or
Kendrick is most definitively not a strikeout pitcher. In fact, among active pitchers, he's got the second lowest career strikeout rate. Here's Wilmer Flores, who made his return to the big leagues last night with a 2-for-5 night. Gets this one out to right center. A long run back for Revere, but he'll get there. And that's the second out.
I don't know if you watched him pitch enough, Gary. And totally different pitchers, because the pitcher I'm talking about won a Cy Young, had a great curveball, great impeccable control for the Phillies. John Denny. When I watch that little delay that Kendrick has, it reminds me so much of John Denny, who won the Cy Young, I want to say 83 for the Phillies, but I could be wrong. He went 20-6.
There's Travis d'Arnaud. I don't have a visual image.
You don't have visual of John Denny. He just had a beautiful delay in his motion, and then at the very end would just paint the corners.
d'Arnaud had 2 hits last night. Cracks this one to right center. Revere racing back, and this one he makes a brilliant catch. Looked like d'Arnaud had beaten him, and Revere at the last moment with full extension makes a brilliant tumbling catch to retire the side. Well, Revere's been having his problems out in center field. Not tonight. Terrific play by Revere. 3-2 Phillies after 2. Get a feel for on TV how far an outfielder has to go to get a ball.
Well, this one in the gap wasn't that it had any air under it. That was the key. That it was as hard as you can hit a line drive to right center. He kind of just outran it, and with that great athletic ability. And you mentioned, Gary, we had a lot of people come over to us and say that he has been struggling mightily in the outfield. What a play.
Well, last night they left Tony Gwynn Jr. in for defense in a spot that only helped them one position in the batting order, which was kind of curious. And you think that Ryan Sandberg was sending some kind of a message about Revere's defense. Ryan Howard drove a double to left center his first time up. Now 8 for 16 against Dylan G with those 6 home runs. There's the good off-speed pitch.
Yeah, well, you better, if you're the pitcher, give him a high five. That saved you a double to a triple.
Howard, Bird, and Brown against G in the third. Into the shift. And Murphy with plenty of time throws out Howard, one away. You know, Murphy could play even deeper the way Howard's running right now.
He wants to. Murphy would love to play deeper.
I mean, then you could put Granderson on the warning track, or maybe at the Pepsi porch.
Well, you feel, though, don't you, for Ryan Howard? You know, running was never a big part of his game. He's a home run hitter, but, you know, suffering that injury that he did and working hard to get back, you know, it's tough for him to get it going.
It's been, what, 2.5 years now? 2011, right? He hurt that Achilles.
It's Achilles of a big man, though, Gary, you know?
Marlon Bird got hit by the pitch his first time. He hits it out to right center. Long run back in the gap for Lagares to the warning track. He runs it down. Well, we've seen some fine center field play this last inning.
Anything you can do. I mean, unbelievable here by Lagares. I mean, not as spectacular, of course, as Ben Revere, but we've seen him do this, what, for 2 years now. Ball drifts a little bit back over his left shoulder, but stayed with it.
So a long second out. And now G has a chance for his first 1, 2, 3 innings. He takes on Dominic Brown, who dumped one in front of a diving Lagares for an RBI single in the first inning. So Brown has 3 hits, 3 RBIs in this series, and not one of them has been hit hard. Hits this one harder out to left, chasing Young back, but he gets there, and that retires the side. So G has that elusive 1, 2, 3 inning. That takes us to the bottom of the third. 3-2 Phillies. May 24th, when the Mets take on the Diamondbacks at 4:10 p.m. The first 20,000 fans will receive a David Wright canvas print courtesy of Pepsi. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. It's one step up from your average poster, isn't it?
Yes.
The canvas print.
Well, we had the Shea Stadium canvas print was the first one, right?
Classing the place up.
I like it.
Going to the upscale renderings. Dylan G. trying to do what no pitcher has done for the Mets this year. Hit a couple of balls hard his last start in Colorado with nothing to show for it. I'm thinking maybe if I don't mention the number, something good will happen.
Okay, so don't. All right.
If that doesn't work, we'll change the plan again.
We'll overanalyze it if it doesn't work this time.
1 and 2.
I mean, it's sometimes it's a fluke when a team is getting a lot of hits from pitchers. Sometimes a fluke when you don't get any, but when it gets to this point, then it gets a little anxious.
Well, it's almost amusingly historic at this point.
Well, it's amusingly historic for everyone except the pitchers. I mean, you definitely feel it. You know, I haven't been on, you know, I was lucky enough to be in a club where almost everyone that was on the team was a good hitter. And Doc the best. Sid Fernandez, one of the better hitters. Rick Aguilera was the best hitting pitcher I ever played with.
Really?
He only had a few at-bats. He had 3 home runs, maybe at 130 at-bats. But he was the best hitting pitcher. He just didn't get the opportunity.
It's like Dennis Cook.
Dennis Cook?
Dennis Cook hit about 500 for his career, but he had like 16 at-bats. Well, Dylan's hanging in there against Kendrick, at least making him work.
When you think of the good hitting pitchers, you think of Don Robinson.
Rick Rhoden.
Rick Rhoden was great.
Bob Gibson. Earl Wilson back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Another foul ball.
Dylan staying in there.
Gary Peters with the White Sox in the 60s used to bat 6th in the order.
Known for other stuff, but okay, we get it.
This will be the 9th pitch of the at bat from Kendrick to G. So I think G's already won on longevity. And he keeps it going.
Crowd's getting into it now. They know the number.
Well, last night, Henry Mejia hit a routine fly ball to left, and the crowd was going crazy on contact. Again, the 1-2 from Kendrick. And G takes it inside, and this marathon continues. He's already seen 10 pitches in this at bat, and he's still going. Don't wear yourself out, Dylan. Lagares on deck, Murphy behind him. Pitch number 11, and G goes down swinging. So now I can tell you that Met pitchers are 0 for 60.
You know what's interesting in the National League, and sometimes you can't do anything about it because maybe you don't have the horses or the athletes to do it, but there is never any talk about how to make that 9th position better. You know, everyone's always talking about how to maximize the game, how I can, you know, do this with the lineup, do this with the starting pitching, bullpen. How do you maximize that 9th slot? That is, to me, you know, so important in the National League. But if you don't have the horses, there's nothing you can do.
Well, if you do have the horses, what do you do?
Well, I'm just saying you can have an at bat like that. You can, if we've seen any of the pitchers try to drop a bunt down, you know, maybe try to make them make a play. Something could happen. But there's a lot of little things you can do.
Lagares bangs one to short. Rollins slides over in front of it. 2 out. So Kendrick's now retired 7 in a row since the home run by David Wright. And now Daniel Murphy comes to bat. Well, you could change the program by not batting the pitcher 9th.
No, I don't think they've warranted moving up a slot. We saw, though, we've seen LaRussa, of course, use it 100 times, but Terry Collins used it in spring training.
He did. A couple of teams have used it in games this year. Murphy grounded into a fielder's choice his first time up. One of the best hitting seasons a Met pitcher ever had was Mike Hampton in his 1 year as a Met. 7
RBIs that year.
Never hit a home run, though. He didn't start hitting home runs till he went to Colorado.
That's a lot of people's story.
Well, you know, he learned how to hit home runs in Colorado because, you know, the schools were really
better there, right? I'm sure he wishes he could take that one back.
Kendrick ahead on Murphy 0-2. Gets this one out to center field. A lot of room out there for Revere. And at the edge of the track, he makes the grab. And carried well to straightaway center. Kendrick's retired 8 straight. He's got a 3-2 lead as we go to the 4th. Eric Campbell spending his first day in the major leagues, called up from Las Vegas today, and of course his folks are here from Norwich, Connecticut, and they are standing by with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Yes, they are, Gary, and they have some pretty awesome seats too. When your son's a major leaguer, that's where you get to sit. We're right behind home plate with Hugh and Amy Campbell. And Hugh, the phone call last night, early morning I should say, what was that like to get it from Eric?
It was surreal. It was like the culmination of all our hopes came to that moment, and we were at a loss. When he said he was going to New York, you know, I think we both welled up. And Amy came into the bedroom and said, "You got to take this phone call. You got to take this phone call." And I'm half asleep, and I'm saying, "What the heck is so important?" And it was, Eric on the other end to say the moment had come.
Amy, this hasn't been a quick road for Eric. 7 years since he's been drafted, as we see Carlos Ruiz line it to right field where Curtis Granderson makes a nice sliding catch for the first out. But this has been 7 years in the making since he was drafted. Was there ever a moment as a mother that you sensed doubt in Eric?
Not a one. Absolutely not a one. He's a patient, persistent kid, and he just has kept at it and knew that it eventually would happen for him.
Hugh, you were his high school coach. To have this moment finally arrive, to look back at what he was in high school and to see where he's come, can you describe that feeling?
Well, he had a lot of good coaches to help him along.
One in particular, right?
I'm the least of it. But John Iovino, Pete Hughes, Mick Aoki at Boston College, and then the coaches he's had with the Mets. He particularly is grateful to George Greer for, kind of refining the nuances of hitting, and Wally Backman has been a godsend in terms of extending Eric's versatility as far as the game is concerned. But the passion for the game he always had and never lost it from the time he was about 5 years old. And as soon as he started swinging the bat, he's always tried to find ways to get better.
What kind of player are Mets fans going to see from a former coach and a father?
You're going to find a versatile guy that can handle the bat. If you're looking for a guy that's, a big home run hitter, that's not him. He's a line drive guy. He'll hit the ball to all fields. He runs well for a big kid, and he can play anywhere.
Amy, real fast, do we have new Mother's Day plans tomorrow?
We do. I think we'll take in another game.
I think that's probably a good idea. Gary, back to you.
Every chance that Eric will be in the lineup tomorrow against the left-hander Cole Hamels. Kendrick strikes out looking. First strikeout of the night for Dylan G. 3-2 Phillies in the fourth. The best way to start your weekday. Join Suki, Corey, and Linda for the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Early Mother's Day. Sometimes the kids will just tire you out.
Mother's Day, you're supposed to like have the day off, right? Like going to the spa. Well, it's not quite Mother's Day. Tomorrow's the day. There, that's what I think.
That's what's supposed to happen.
When I think about Mother's Day.
Dad takes care of the kids on Mother's Day.
He's got a cold one just to get through.
He's got a full handful, 2 handful.
Look at the rosy cheeks on those two.
David Wright leads off the home 4th. David grounds one right at Rollins. So after a home run his previous time up, Wright grounds out to start the home 4th.
You know, I was saying in between innings how good Rollins is and how quick he is still. You know, I hate to drop an age on anyone, but he's been playing for such a long time. 4 Gold Gloves. I just like the way he fields. He's got an interesting way about him, and I think a lot of it has to do with his size. Built lower to the ground, he has an ability to get so low and to kind of block the ball every time that the ball never gets by him. And he's got a much stronger arm than a lot of people give him credit for.
It had seemed a few years ago as though he was losing a step defensively, but it doesn't look that way anymore. It's almost like he got that step back. You know, Anderson takes a strike.
A lot of these older players, especially at those kinds of positions, they have to start to get the latest technology to get that quickness back, and I think certainly Jimmy has done it.
It's interesting. You always talk about the place in your career where knowledge intersects with athletic ability.
That's right.
And I think for position players, that's as much about nutrition and keeping yourself fit and getting the max out of yourself in your 30s as opposed to in your 20s.
You know, last 101 games last year, 3 errors. So he's not only looks like he's playing great defense, he is playing great defense, and it's fun for me to watch.
Kendrick behind 3-1, and Granderson hooks one foul.
You know, he grew up in the shadows of the Oakland Alameda Coliseum. He grew up in Alameda, and Ricky Henderson had to be his favorite player. The way he plays, leads off, the home runs leading off, and a lot of credit to his uniform and playing for the Phillies, the numbers he's put up.
Granderson right back up the middle. Rollins can't get to this one, and Granderson's got a 1-out hit. So after Kendrick had retired 9 in a row, Granderson breaks that up.
It's interesting, kind of against the shift, right? Right up the middle. A lot of times you'll see teams will have the shortstop playing right behind the pitcher. This time not. Kendrick upset that he felt like he should have made that play.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Chris Young, who hit one about 6 inches in front of the plate, and Ruiz threw him out first time up. I'd love to get an actual distance on that Young ball.
Like, how short can you hit a ball with a full swing?
Well, you know, if it sits on the plate, it's technically a fair ball.
Right. So
he got it out in front of the plate. So it's not like it was the shortest ever.
That'll certainly make players angry, but the worst is when they hit a one-hop BB back at the pitcher that they know was going to be a base hit, and the pitcher has it in such a point of time that they've got to run it out, and it just takes forever. I mean, I've had hitters, let's just say, not saying nice things on the way to first base.
Well, let me ask you a question. As someone who was an extraordinary fielder for a pitcher, when you handled that one-hop BB, did you ever wait?
Never.
Make him run?
Never ever. Bad karma. Just get rid of it, get it over there. I wasn't good enough to show someone up, so no. Not that I didn't want it.
Well, there's strike 3 called, and Young is out. So you didn't want to show up other players, but did you ever do what Madison Bumgarner did last night when he thought somebody else was showing him up?
What did he do?
Well, Yasiel Puig hits a home run and flips the bat and then takes his time going around the bases, and Bumgarner screamed at him as he was running.
Well, we've seen that happen a lot lately, haven't we? Where the pitchers are taking exception to guys kind of, I mean, Puig's in L.A., that's Showtime, right? The pitchers taking exception to that, and that's a good thing. But there used to be, and pitchers don't do it now, and they'll have to tell you why. You know, during the season, you find your place and you take care of it, and he remembers it and you remember it. But those kind of things now are so rare that if you were to do it, you'd probably have a brawl.
Do they have brawls anymore?
They had one where? L.A. and Arizona last year, right?
They had a pushing and shoving session earlier this year.
I won't say his name because it's not fair, but someone did that to me a long time ago in an April game, and it wasn't until September till I got a shot to hit him.
Duda lines one to Rollins, and that will do it for the Mets in the bottom of the fourth. A hit and one left after 4, 3-2 Phillies. Tweet your fan photo using hashtag #PixFanPhoto, brought to you by AT&T. Now, you can take a picture of the Nolan Ryan bobblehead for the fan photo, but it's probably better if you're in the picture with Nolan.
Like, drop a selfie on it. Let's go.
Or a cute kid or a dog or something. Or a cat that I think is a dog.
I think you're taking a picture to show someone who was supposed to come, because it was raining early, they didn't come, and showing we got the bobblehead for you.
Third time around the batting order for Dylan G. Ben Revere 1 for 2. Back-to-back curveballs from G to get ahead 0-2. G has retired 7 straight after giving up the Jimmy Rollins home run to put the Phillies in the lead. So both pitchers have settled in as G makes Revere turn on his heel.
This is a good pitch by Dylan. He needs to do it more, to tell you the truth. Guys just lean over that plate. One right there, little change up away. Let's see what happens.
I was impressed that Revere kept his pivot foot planted. There's the first out. Well, it's Nolan Ryan bobblehead night, and by the way, he had no hesitation about throwing inside.
Oh boy, he was mean when he was on that mound. And this is his early days with the Mets, and he could throw as hard as anyone has ever thrown with that big hook, and refined it by the time he got to Los Angeles or Anaheim, and he was at times, the most times, unhittable.
We saw a video there from the postseason in 1969 when he was at his best in both Game 3 of the League Championship Series and Game 3 of the World Series. Came in relief and was devastating.
Look at those strikeouts.
5,714 strikeouts. When we were growing up, Walter Johnson had the all-time record at 3508, and they said it would never be broken.
Right.
Now, everybody broke it, and Ryan broke it by over almost 2,000.
And no one will
Over
break.
2,000.
And no one will break it now because of the longevity factor.
Well, you never know.
Come
the way
on.
strikeouts are going up.
Well,
I mean, 15 strikeouts a game might become customary.
But you'd have to have 5 Tommy Johns to get there.
Maybe. Rollins having a big night with a single and a home run. And he hits this one off the end of the bat to left center. Easy play for Lagares. And that's the second out. So 9 in a row retired by Dylan G. 2 out and nobody on, and Chase Utley coming up. Well, it was certainly a rough start for G. He gave up 4 hits to the first 6 batters. Phillies scored twice in the first, added the Rollins home run in the second, but since then, helped out by some good defense behind him, G has set down 9 in a row and found his rhythm. Utley has a sacrifice fly, and then he had a foul fly that Chris Young made a good play on in the second. Who's Hot brought to you by JetBlue. You above all. Chase Utley 4th in the National League in batting, not quite up to the 3 Rockies. Look at that trio.
Whoa.
By the way, 2 of those 3 Rockies have homered tonight, Blackman and Morneau. In fact, Blackman and Corey Dickerson homered back-to-back to start the game tonight in Cincinnati against Alfredo Simon. Rockies were up 7-1 in the 5th. G ahead 0-2.
Making sure she keeps hers in the plastic. Doesn't want anything to happen to it.
Goes for more on eBay that way. Utley stops the swing. Ball on 2 strikes. Ryan Howard would be next. G, though, trying to get through this inning with another clean one. I don't know how he fouled that pitch off.
I always call that a Bernie Carbo. Bernie Carbo in 1975 in the 6th game of the World Series had the worst swing you've ever seen, and on the next pitch, a 3-run home run to get the Red Sox back in that series.
Set up the Fisk home run. Well, that one sailed.
What did Casey say? Does anyone know how to play this game? I mean, this ball, it looks like to me that he called a different pitch, Darno.
He was waiting for that ball to break.
Waiting for the local, and he got the express.
Fortunately, nobody got hurt. Two from G to Utley. And that one hits him. Utley, who is the master at getting hit by pitches, got hit by one last night. He had a year where he got hit by 29 pitches earlier in his career.
Well, he just doesn't give way. There's a toughness to Utley, and he stands right on that dish. And what he's telling you is that if you try to get me out in and you don't make your pitch, you're going to hit me, and I'm going to first base. Almost Ron Hunt-like.
Well, it's 2-hit batsman for G tonight, who didn't have a single one in his first 7 starts. So he's got to face Howard with the man on. G got Howard out his last time up, which is a headline. Howard now 8 for 17 with 6 home runs against G. And he cracks one into center for a base hit. Utley turns second, but he will be wise to stop there as Lagares gets it quickly. And so the Phillies have 2 men on. So Howard has his 2nd hit of the night. And for Dylan, it's just happy the ball stays in the ballpark.
Well, it's been 2 nice hitting here by Howard, going the other way now for 2 of his hits. And the way that Lagares patrols center field, he just takes the heart away from the runner, right in between first and second.
9 for 18 with 6 home runs. What do you do?
Punt.
So here's Bird, who hit one deep to center field that Lagares ran down after being hit on the hand by a pitch his first time up. 2 out and 2 on. Phillies up 3-2 in the 5th. The sinker misses, ball 1.
You know, this is the first game that Travis d'Arnaud looks a little anxious and edgy behind there. He doesn't look comfortable. It's telling me that the reason I'm thinking that, he played the 11 innings last night. He usually just sits back there, relaxed, never has a movement, and he's been kind of jumping at the ball today.
Bird pops one up. Flores makes the call, backpedaling, now having trouble but stays with it to retire the side. Phillies strand 2. Well, Nolan Ryan bobblehead night, celebrating a man who got away, but he was part of that '69 World Championship team and helped the Mets to win that miracle World Series over the Orioles. Wilmer Flores leads off the home 5th inning with the Mets down by a run. And Kyle Kendrick gets a strike called. Flores flying to center his first time up. d'Arnaud and G to follow in the lower third of the order against Kendrick. Mets have had just 2 hits over the first 4 innings. David Wright hit a 2-run homer in the first. Granderson singled in the 4th, and that's been it. Ball and a strike. Mets now have scored 4 runs in their last 38 innings. Grounder for Utley to handle. And Flores retired. Kendrick couldn't care a whit about that, by the way. The fact the Mets haven't been scoring. No. He hasn't won in a dog's age.
That's right.
13 straight starts without a win, and I think that's all that concerns him.
What was the Anthony Young thing here, Gary? How many did he
lost?
lose?
27 in a row.
27 in a row, but he was a reliever.
Starter and reliever during that stretch. He.
I think I was still playing when he first came up, right?
Well, this was early 90s. Yeah. 93, 94.
Oh, no, then. Yeah. He would.
It might have started when you were still here.
I might have remembered him from the minor leagues. You know, like big league camp, spring training or something.
The thing about Anthony in that 27-game losing streak is d'Arnaud pops one up. This will be playable as Ruiz sheds the mask. And that's the second out. He kind of embraced it. You know, he went on Johnny Carson.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of an odd thing. He had a nice personality. He was, you have to be pretty unlucky to lose 27 in a row. And even when he snapped the streak, he had to be lucky. He came in a game in relief. gave up a run in the 10th. Would have been loss number 28 in a row, but the Mets scored 2 in the bottom of the 10th, and he got a win.
Got him the win
to snap the streak.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of streaks, lines one down the left field line. Foul. Well, that's the closest any Met has come to a hit.
The field is the wrong shape.
If we played on an Australian rules football field, that would have been a hit.
They opened on the cricket field. That would have been perfect.
Well, G had an 11 pitch at bat his first time up before he struck out. This time he's behind in the count 0-2. What can you do but just keep swinging? 0-1 finds the fat part of the bat and hits grass toward the hole, but cut off by Ashe. Takes his time and throws out G, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Kyle Kendrick. 5 complete now at Citi Field. Phillies 3, Mets 2.
Inning now, Phillies up 3-2 on the Mets, and one of the best guys to talk baseball with in the game is sitting in the Phillies dugout. That's Larry Bowa, the bench coach for Philadelphia. I had the opportunity to chat with him for quite a while pregame, spoke about a litany of topics, but one of the things he really delved into was the difference between players today and the difference between how they are now and what they were like when he was playing. He spoke a lot about how there's a big generational difference, and what he meant by that, he said, you know, listen, today, the players, no doubt about it. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. They're also very, very sensitive. He said nowadays as a coach, if you want to pat a guy on the butt or really, you know, kick him in the butt, you need to do it one-on-one. He said these guys don't like to be talked to in public anymore, which is totally the opposite of the way it was back when he was playing. He said managers used to, and this is a quote, browbeat the heck out of us in front of everybody. They didn't care. He spoke specifically about Gene Mauch. He said in response one day to a player when Gene Mauch was browbeating him in front of everyone saying, I'm trying, Gene Mauch said, you try in AAA, you do it at the major league level. I could find someone at the airport that's trying. He said right now there's no way you could do that to these current crop of players.
That's one of the all-time great lines, isn't it? I can find someone at the airport who's trying. But it's true, and it's societal as much as it's baseball.
It's not only baseball. I mean, if you have kids that are teenagers, you know what we're talking about.
Dominic Brown yanks one down to first, and Duda takes care of it for the first out.
This is the first generation of everyone got a trophy, you know, kind of deal here. So, you know, I think what Bowa is trying to address is that I think you have to be much more of a kind of a therapist paternal figure, a guy that sometimes you have to, and I don't know how Boa does it, because I know him and love him, but sometimes I think you have to wait until you address something as opposed to someone coming in from the outfield and getting into him. I mean, the thing with Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson certainly wouldn't happen today in today's game, and maybe definitely shouldn't anyway.
Well, when you were playing, were there situations where a manager or a coach would air a player out in front of other people in the dugout?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that was, you used to wait for those moments as long as it wasn't you. I mean,
doing it with a diving stop, and takes care of himself to get Ruiz for the second out.
What would happen, Gary, a lot of times in the closed door meetings is the manager would stand up and he would start his tirade, and I'm talking about a guy yelling and screaming for 15 to 20 minutes. Nice play here by Lucas. Sorry, Lucas, I don't want to miss your great play to your left, getting up and making the play. Nice agility there by Lucas. And at one point he would pick out one person and he would be all over him, and he would be all over him for the next 5 minutes, and you would leave that place. You weren't trembling, but you were, boy, you got the old man angry.
But even then, didn't a manager or coach have to be enough of a psychologist to know who he could ride hard and who he had to be more gentle with?
Depends on the manager. I think guys that were on the cutting edge were starting to realize that. But I also played for some guys that just, I played for a manager in the professional ranks who did not speak to me for the entire 6-month season. Not once. Not hi, not goodbye, not hello, how are you doing? I mean, that was his school. That was my first year in one of my first years. I don't want to say it. And it just was his style. It didn't make him a bad person. It just was his style, was to have that position of authority that, you know what, you're not worth talking to until you show me something.
So he was like the Wizard of Oz.
How bad is that? I mean,
2-out walk to Ashe.
And Ron, something else, this again goes back to the generational difference, but one thing Larry Boa really couldn't wrap his mind around was how what he deemed was a gentleman's game today is played. He said back in the day you would never see something like a starting pitcher that day with his arm around the opposing hitters. He said when I was playing, you didn't want to get within 20 feet of the starting pitcher because you knew that day he was going to do everything in his power to get you out. He said today there are guys that they go up to the batter's box and they're not nervous at all as Kyle Kendrick grounds out to end the inning. So he said there's guys that they're way too comfortable because of the way these opposing pitchers treat the hitters, because they're all friends, because of the sharing of agents, and because of obviously the movement, the player movement of teams. Everybody's friends, and he said it's just a different game today than it was back then.
Strong thoughts from Larry Boa. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 6th with the top of the order coming up, down by a run. The line score is brought to you by Chevrolet. Find new roads. Got a little disco feel in the building tonight.
Nice.
Night fever. It's not 70s night in the ballpark, is it?
My favorite one. We don't want any demolitions.
Top of the batting order for New York in the home sixth. That's got a 2-run homer from David Wright in the first. Only one base runner since then. Lagares, Murphy, and Wright will try and get something started against Kendrick. Third time around the batting order. Lagares has been hit by a pitch and grounded out to short, 0 for 1. Ever since Lagares got back from the disabled list, he's taken over the leadoff spot, and Eric Young has become the fourth outfielder. He had been hitting leadoff for most of the season. And whether coincidence or not, since Young has been out of the lineup, the Mets have had trouble winning. One and one to Lagares. There are the numbers. Mets have scored a run less per game, and they're just 2-7 when Eric doesn't start.
You know, beautiful to see those graphics, but when you were watching Eric play, it was almost like for a stretch there, Gary, he would get on and somehow score every first inning. So it was like he was putting the Mets on the board right away.
You know, when you look at the pure numbers for EY, it's not really reflected there.
Yeah.
Right. His on base percentage is only .319, which is about what it was last year. And Lagares is off to a fast start. And, you know, Chris Young did a couple of home runs, and although Terry Collins talked about having an outfield rotation with the four guys, it really has not come to pass. It's basically been Young, Chris Young, Lagares, and Granderson every day with Eric Young on the bench.
You know, the problem you have is that, you know, there's a lineup for a reason. You know, it just doesn't come out of thin air. You know, you're not hitting people wherever you want to feel like hitting them. You like to have a guy at the top of the order who has some speed that can get something going. The Mets do not have that person. That's why Eric might not be the perfect remedy, but he's the closest thing they got to it.
Well, that's why Terry gave him the first crack at being the leadoff hitter this year.
But,
there's ball 4, and Lagares draws the walk.
But the intangibles about it also are, I pitched in that mound for many years, Gary. A guy like Eric Young gets on base, changes kind of the first inning for me. You know, I want to kind of cruise through that first inning. Now I got to worry about him. I got to worry about the hitter. Is he going to steal a base? Okay, I don't hold him close enough. He's stolen second now. Now there's a guy in scoring position. There's a lot of intangibles that, you know, you can't always put a number on. I'm not saying that Eric Young should be in the lineup all the time, but he does do unbelievably positive stuff in the end. It's a strange thing to fit 4 people into 3 spots. Always has been.
Murphy's 0 for 2 tonight. And Murphy lines one to left field. That's in for a base hit. Lagares goes to second and stops there as Brown gets it in quickly. And so the Mets have the first 2 men on against Kendrick in the home sixth.
Well, Murph, no one better on that pitch away. Waits on it so well. Line drive that drops in front of Brown.
So the Mets trying to fight from behind, and the table set for David Wright. We've got a 2-run homer back in the first inning, snapping a 136 at-bat home run drought. David then grounded out to short on the first pitch he saw in the 4th inning. Tying run at second, go-ahead run at first with nobody out. Murphy's hit was just the 3rd of the night for the Mets.
Came on that 0-2 pitch just right in the heart of the plate, and David did not miss it.
His 3rd career home run against Kendrick and 43 at bats against him. And it Bounces into Ruiz, who knocks it down with the chest protector. 1-1.
Well, none better. Molina, maybe.
Just makes himself a big cushion.
It's like a beanbag chair at some point.
David with the home run tonight has hit in 8 straight games, trying to get his bat heated up. Kendrick keeps it away from him.
You know, real good catchers, as soon as they see it hit the dirt, they'll go forward just a little bit, kind of shorten that distance between that bouncing curveball.
Like a goalie cutting down the angle.
There you go. Almost feel like Kendrick's pitching nervous here. Doesn't it feel like that?
Phillies bullpen about to get started behind Kendrick. 2-1 to right. That's off the plate. And now Kendrick pitching himself into a dangerous spot. Behind on David 3-1. There's Jake Diekman quickly to work in the Phillies bullpen. Granderson on deck. 3-1 to right with 2 men on. David chases a pitch outside. 3-2.
That's that pitch there. That tough to take, little late slider. That's the best slider that Kendrick's thrown all night. 3-1. David's looking fastball. Little slider at the end. Good pitch.
3-2 coming. And right loops one down the right field line. Coming on is Bird. Diving. Can't make the catch. Lagares breaks for third. He's being waved home with the tying run. Murphy goes to third. David Wright with a pop fly double ties the game at 3.
Well, Bird knew how big of a play it was going to be, so he sold out. Luckily, he gets enough leather on it just at the end of his glove to direct it towards the wall. Tough call for Lagares. He plays it halfway. No, he moved around too much, but still has enough speed, and Tuffle sends him. It was a real tough read for Murphy, to tell you the truth. And Lagares.
Well, because if Bird makes that diving catch, Murphy can't be too far off the bag, because Marlin could pop up and double him off first. But Murph makes it to third. David Wright with a home run and now a bloop double. He's driven in all 3 met runs, and for the second time tonight has tied the game.
Okay, watch Murph here. He's watching the ball. He's halfway. He's not sure. And once he sees, that was perfect by Murph, to tell you the truth. Lagares is the one that probably should have been off the base a little more.
Murphy stopped between second and third because I think he wasn't sure if Lagares was going to stop at third base.
If he was going to be sent, yeah.
At that point, it was too late because David was already at second. So somebody would have been hung out to dry. So now the Mets have tied it. 2 in scoring position. Nobody out. Granderson the batter. The infield back conceding the go-ahead run. And the curveball from Kendrick in for a strike. Granderson 1 for 2. Single to center his last time up. Mets were down 2-0. Wright hit a 2-run homer to tie. Down 3-2. Wright hits a run-scoring double, his 1600th hit. And now Granderson trying to get the Mets the lead for the first time. And Curtis grounds one down toward first, a foul ball. Murphy broke on contact. 0-2 now to Granderson. Generally, with nobody out, you're not going to break on contact. Chris Young on deck. So Kendrick has found trouble here in the 6th. And that is his recent ledger going back to last year. He had retired 14 of the previous 15 batters before this inning began, but a walk, a single, and a double have tied the game. Granderson goes down on the changeup, and that's the first out of the inning. 4th strikeout for Kendrick.
Well, it's been a tough go of it for Granderson because He has been swinging at a lot of pitches off the plate. He's an aggressive swinger. Likes to get that head out. Likes to hit the ball out of the park. And if you're swinging at balls, you have no chance.
Last night, the Mets had a fifth inning situation with second and third and nobody out and did not score. Trying to avoid the same fate here in the sixth. Chris Young will bat and the Phillies will bring the infield halfway. Young hit a dribbler and was thrown out by Ruiz, called out on strikes in the fourth. Now 0 for his last 14. And he takes inside, ball one.
You know, we were talking about some of the ancillary players before, bringing up newer talent to help the offense. Well, guys like Granderson, guys like Young, they're brought here to come through in these circumstances. This is their meat and potatoes.
Young's average down to 221 with this 0 for 14 stretch. He pulls that one just foul. 1-1. But it also brings back the question to what we began the inning with. You know, Chris Young is getting playing time over Eric Young. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Granderson's going to play every day, given his contract, and Lagares is going to play every day.
Well, Lagares is only playing every day because he's been their best player to this point. But if he hadn't been, how do you think the season would have started?
It's a good question.
Might not have played.
But you and I both believe Lagares had to play every day, and the Mets have come to believe that. Infield in, taken outside by Young. But you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it comes down to which Young is going to play more of the time. And Chris is getting the call. He has a $7 million contract this year, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with it. But if he doesn't produce, you have to figure EY is going to get a shot.
So maybe you're thinking you know what you get in EY. You're trying to identify what you're going to get in Chris Young.
Still trying to learn after a rough year last year in Oakland. He's got a big spot here. Second and third and one out. 2-1 from Kendrick. Bounce foul. 2-2. Interesting that the Phillies are playing their infield in here. They did not with Granderson, but they are with Young, and you're tempting fate with that. More likely he can hit one through and drive in two rather than one.
It almost feels more like a field play, like an old-time manager's field play. Maybe it's the right-hander on the right-handed hitter.
Well, Young has got to put the ball in play here. 2-2 coming. Outside, full count. Lucas Duda waits on deck. Mets had three circumstances last night with a runner at third and less than 2 out where they struck out. These are the outs that cannot be strikeouts if you're going to be successful offensively. 3-2. Just inside, ball four. Kendrick gives a look in at the home plate umpire Tim Timmons after that call. And the Mets have the bases loaded. Second walk of the inning.
That's good at bat by Chris Young. This pitch is in and down. I thought it was down. Yeah, definitely. Not even close. Catches more plate than I thought it did, but definitely down.
So now the bases are full. Duda's coming up, and Ryan Sandberg's going to go to his bullpen. He's got his hard-throwing lefty Jake Diekman ready to go. The Mets have tied it here in the sixth. Now looking to grab the lead. Kendrick will exit. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Audi. Truth in engineering. Kendrick out, Diekman in. 3-3 in the sixth. We'll be right back. Losing streak tonight. That's not going to happen, but he'll hope to get away without a loss if Jake Diekman can come on and get the job done for him.
Well, Diekman, the last 41 outs he has recorded, 25 have come by a strikeout for the hard-throwing left-hander.
Lucas Duda is due up, but with a lefty in the game, Amy Campbell's kid is going to get his first major league at bat. Amy's moved up to the front row to watch her son Eric Campbell take his first at bat.
She's a New Yorker already.
That's exactly right. Elbowed her way to the front. Campbell was having a terrific year at Las Vegas, hitting .355 with a .442 on base percentage, and his first at bat in the majors comes with the bases loaded, 1 out, tie game, 6th inning. 27-year-old Eric Campbell in a big league batter's box for the first time. And the hard thrower Diekman fires one inside for ball 1.
I always think Kevin Kuzmanov.
Well, that was the first pitch.
Right?
Grand slam, and it's the first pitch he saw in the majors. And Daniel Nava did the same for the Red Sox. And Campbell drives one to right center. Over goes Bird to make the grab. Tagging at third is Murphy. He'll come home with the lead run. Eric Campbell with a sacrifice fly in his first swing in the major leagues, and the Mets take the lead for the first time tonight, 4-3.
Can he get the ball for a sacrifice fly? Put on that back.
That's a go-ahead RBI. 1 out.
Had the patience enough to sit off that first pitch that was out of the strike zone, and as soon as he got one over the middle, short stroke, and Mom trying to capture it.
Wow, that's cool. Early Mother's Day present for Amy and Campbell, and Eric comes through as a pinch hitter in his first big league plate appearance. So it's 4-3 New York. Now Wilmer Flores with first and third and 2 out.
How about the Vegas kids coming through back to back?
He may not stop smiling the rest of the night. He'll have to grab his first baseman's mitt and go into play now after pinch hitting for Duda. So now Flores, who's flied out and grounded out tonight, trying to add to it. So Kyle Kendrick finds himself on the short end again. Diekman worked a scoreless inning last night. Both teams went very deep into their bullpens in last night's 11-inning slog. Phillies used 5 relievers. The Mets used 6. Right at third, Chris Young at first with 2 down. Flores the 7th man up in the inning, and he takes the fastball in tight. 1-1. Travis d'Arnaud hitting 8th in the order would be next.
An electric arm Diekman has. I mean, electric.
Makes you make up your mind awfully early, doesn't it? One and 2 to Flores. He pops one up. Howard tracking it. Utley coming over to call him off, and that retires the side. But the Mets grab the lead. David Wright ties it with a bloop double, and then Eric Campbell, first time to the plate in the major leagues, drives a sacrifice fly to get the lead run home. Drawing smiles from Mom and his teammates. 4-3 New York after 6. It's Wednesday, May 14th and Thursday, May 15th when the Mets take on the Yankees at 7:10. The first 10,000 fans can trade in old caps for a new Mets cap courtesy of Chevrolet. Take the train to the game with the Long Island Railroad. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Subway Series. Well, surprisingly, Dylan G is out of this game. He had a rough beginning, hit his stride in the middle innings, and he's out after 81 pitches.
I'm really surprised. And this, I mean, I don't know if he doesn't feel well or he doesn't feel. I mean, throwing the best he's thrown all game, but the decision made. The only thing I can think about, Gary, is that it was a long inning, and I've seen that happen before, but I don't completely understand it. Rice was great in yesterday's ball game, getting Utley to ground into a double play.
Rice returned to action last night after missing a couple of days with a sore back. So G is done. He's in position for a win. 3 runs in 6 innings. His ERA goes up from 2.51 to 2.73. Top of the batting order coming up against Rice, and you've got 2 left-hand hitters in those top 3 with Revere, Rollins, and Utley. Revere singled, stole a base, scored a run back in the first, 1 for 3, and he tries to drag a bunt and fouls it off. Well, it's certainly something that will be a question for Terry Collins after the game. Did G stiffen up between innings?
Yeah.
Especially, as you say, with a long inning as the Mets took the lead. Was it a fait accompli after he threw 113 pitches at altitude his last time out that he'd have a shorter pitch count tonight? Was it the fact that he got off to a poor start tonight and gave up 3 runs in the first 2 innings? And maybe that put more stress on him? It'll be interesting to hear what the rationale was. Sinker misses, a ball and a strike to Revere.
You know, even though it's just a single 4-run lead, this is one of those games the Mets have to win.
Well, there's another piece to it, too. The Mets did have an off day on Thursday as Revere scorches one at Flores, makes a nice stop as that ball came up to him, and he throws out Revere one away. Nice play by Flores.
That was an excellent play. That ball, it changed directions off the mound. See that? That's one of the hardest plays for middle infielders. It hits that mound on the side, and instead of going up the middle, it comes back to your right. So you've got to kind of cradle it back into the middle of your body, and that's what he did right there, right on his left hip. Nice play.
Still 1 out and nobody on for Jimmy Rollins, who's 2 for 3, a single and a home run. I was going to say, even though the Mets had an off day Thursday, they had to get 6 1/3 innings out of their bullpen last night and used everybody except Gonzalez Herman. So you would have thought this was a night you might have pushed your starter a little harder.
Well, knowing Dylan, you know, he would never ask out of a game. He's not that kind of pitcher. So that had to be the manager's decision or a health issue. And I'm not talking about an arm, just, you know, things can happen.
You never know.
You know.
I mean, there's so much we don't know.
That's right. What we do know is Scott Rice is in the game.
Right. And we'll hear from Terry after the game, I'm sure, and find out what his thought process was. 1-1 to Rollins with Utley on deck. And that splitter in for a strike, 1-2. A couple of days off might have served Scott Rice well. He's thrown the ball well the last 2 nights. Bounce toward third. That's a foul ball. Just outside the bag.
Which tells me before, remember Gary, Scott was struggling with his control, and he sat out those few days with his back. Remember last year, he's not a guy, because of that 14-year run in the minors, that's ever going to ask out. And he pitched a lot last year with that sports hernia,
right,
when he probably should have been on the bench.
A hernia that was bad enough it required 2 operations to correct.
So it tells you about his toughness, and also, you know, he sat in the minor leagues for 14 years. He's not giving this chance up again.
Now the 2-2. Slap to the right side. Campbell started for the ball but retreats to the bag, and safe at first is Jimmy Rollins. Now the ball hits softly. Terry Collins is going to come out to leave open his option to challenge this. The first base umpire is Tim Welke, the veteran umpire and crew chief.
The inexperience of this play is two things. One, Campbell's all jacked up. He's out there and wants to make every single play. But what he had to do after that, Gary, after you made the initial run, let the pitcher take it. Get out of the way. By the time he came back, you had to wait. Murphy had to wait too long, and Jimmy was safe at first.
And clearly the right call by Tim Welke. So Terry has gone back to the dugout. So now the tying run is aboard, and Utley coming up.
You know what I'm saying is that okay, he made a mistake by going for it. And Guerin with the call that leave it alone. Just get out of the way. Let the pitcher cover. He'll make the play.
So much of a tougher play for a left-hand pitcher, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, as that one skips away from d'Arnaud, and that moves the tying run to second. Rollins takes a turn and goes on back. So a wild pitch from Rice moves Rollins up.
Well, it's supposed to be on the outside part slider. It hits the plate. Not good fundamentals, though, by d'Arnaud. And Jimmy wants to play tonight. He's got a little extra gear.
Usually does against the Mets.
He does, especially in this town. Travis head down. He knows he's got to block that pitch.
Been the one part of Travis's defensive game that probably been a little short on this year, blocking balls in the dirt. Utley pulls one foul. Ball and a strike. Met pitchers have been charged with 14 wild pitches this year, and some of that goes on the pitchers, of course.
Yeah.
Rollins at second and one out. And Utley takes a swing at a slider and misses. 1-2. Of course, the other possibility in taking G out is that Terry just wanted Rice against these left-hand hitters. You know,
exactly.
You got Revere, Utley, and Howard. Rollins a better left-hand hitter than Wright.
Revere had a hit against Dillon.
Here's the 1-2.
Jimmy
stops that one. 2-2.
Jimmy was thinking of taking that base. What you have to do here as a team, Gary, put a play on, make a throw back there, just an easy throw. Just let him know that you're thinking about him. That'll take that one extra step away.
Neither Utley nor Howard has ever had a hit against Rice. Utley's 0 for 6 against Scott. Rollins dancing off second, and finally Utley asks for time. Rollins certainly has Rice's attention.
Getting in his head. That's what Jimmy has done his entire career against every team, but in particular the Mets.
This might be one of those spots where having an inexperienced shortstop makes it difficult to run a pickoff. As Utley hits it deep to center, Lagares got a late start, now looks up near the wall, and it's off the fence. Rollins will come around third and score the tying run. Utley takes a wide turn at second and holds with an RBI double, and the Phillies have drawn even again. It's 4-4. Utley strikes again.
He had a couple of funny swings and finally catches a slider and centers it. This was a bullet. How many times have we seen Lagares give up on a ball? That's how hard it was hit. Lucky for that one to stay in the park. And then Jimmy can Cadillac in.
He's thinking triple.
Same all the time for Utley. 100%.
It's his league-leading 15th double of the year. His 18th RBI, his second of the night. And we're even again at 4. And now Howard, who's 2 for 3. He takes it in tight from Rice.
So you face Revere, you get him out. You turn around, Rollins is only hitting .216 from the right side, coming in to the game. Utley gets a double. And you got to handle these lefties. Always have against Philly.
Well, you looked at the numbers coming into the inning. Neither Utley nor Howard had a hit against Rice. Now Utley does.
In our history of doing these games, no one was better than Pedro Feliciano at handling this middle while they were the best they were.
One of the reasons he was in 90-plus games. All those games against Utley and Howard. There goes Utley stealing third, and Rice steps off and throws him out. A base running mistake by Chase Utley costs the Phillies the go-ahead run.
Well, we've seen wonderful play by Chase Utley in this entire series, sprinkled with some nonsense.
You know, that's just a bad play, similar to the one that Murphy made in Colorado. Just going too soon.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ryan Howard's at the plate, isn't he?
Yep.
He's in scoring position right now.
Well, Utley picked up his first stolen base of the season last night. And he got a little too frisky for his own good there. By the way, Howard's still in scoring position. Here's the 1-2. Lofted to right, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Granderson was playing over toward right center against Howard, who found the open spot for his third hit of the night. And that really makes that Utley base running mistake look huge.
Well, it's a good pitch by Rice. It's down and it's away. But the big man's so powerful, he just hooks it into right field.
Rough night at the office for Scott Rice. He faces 4 batters, gives up 3 hits and the tying run. Now he'll take his exit. The Mets will get a right-hander in the game to face Marlon Byrd. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Audi Truth in Engineering. By Nissan. Get to your local Nissan store for the ride of your life and save big today. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Jeurys Familia in the game.
He was one of those relievers who was outstanding last night. Got 4 outs, half of them strikeouts.
He struck out Marlon Byrd last night. He'll face Byrd again with the go-ahead run at first and 2 out in a 4-4 game in the 7th. And Byrd, first pitch swinging, bounces one behind Pete McCannon, strike 1. Bird tonight 0 for 2. He's also been hit by a pitch. So Rice went 2/3 of an inning, faced 4 batters, gave up 3 hits. Bailed out really on the base running error by Utley. So both starting pitchers will not factor in the decision tonight. And Bird with a half swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. Well, Familia has gotten better and better results. Stuff is great, and more strikes are now being thrown.
You know, we talked about it last night, though. Now he's ahead. He is so good that this is where you should put people away. 3 pitches, goes to now.
And he does. Familia fans Bird on 3 pitches, puts an end to the top of the 7th. The Phillies get even. Stretch time, tied at 4. The 7th inning in a 4-4 game. Mets were down 2-0, tied it up, down 3-2, tied it up, went ahead 4-3, and then the Phillies tied it up. So back and forth we go. Jake Diekman got the final 2 outs in the 6th, stays on for the 7th. Travis d'Arnaud leads off. Eric Young on deck to pinch hit, and then Juan Lagares as the Mets try and regain the lead. Kyle Kendrick went 5 1/3, allowed 4 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and no decision for him. His 14th straight start without a win. d'Arnaud is 0 for 2 tonight. He had a fly ball to deep center that Ben Revere made a spectacular catch on to rob him of an extra base hit back in the 2nd. Diekman starts him off with a wicked slider for a strike. Let's see. Diekman last night faced 5 batters. He's faced 2 batters tonight and lopped over into another inning.
It's just amazing to me. They identify these relievers because they cannot stand the punishment of being out there for 105, 110 pitches. So it's better to have them out in the bullpen. And I'm not talking about the elite guys at the bat. Ruben Tejada gets a bat. And then they have these guys that were thrown into a computer, spit out at 6'4", 225, that are supposed to take the punishment, and they baby those guys. And these poor guys, weighs $180, soaking wet. I'll pitch him every single day. Twice a day if I could.
It is interesting because, you know, there's been so much effort put into figuring out how many pitches a starter should throw and how much he should throw on the side and how much he needs to rest. Nobody ever seems to think about the relievers and what they need.
Well, listen, they do. I mean, they chart how many pitches, how many times they get up, all that kind of. I get it. But the bottom line is every time I watch the game, and I don't care what kind of list they got out there, every time I watch the game and the Phillies are pitching and they're close to the lead, Diekman's in the game.
But here's the thing: we talk all the time about relief pitching being the most fungible quality and quantity in the game. As d'Arnaud takes strike 3 call, and he's caught looking for the first out. Right? That bullpen performance, the performance of individual relievers, tends to fluctuate more than any other position. Well, maybe that's because nobody's figured out how you're supposed to use relief pitchers so that they can perform at a high level year after year. I mean, has anybody done any research into that? What's the optimal way to handle a guy so he doesn't have an up and down career?
Listen, I'm not talking about a 34-year-old guy that's been with 5 or 6 teams that is a workhorse. He's a solid kid. You know, he's going to throw 60 games for you a year. I mean, this is one of their studs moving forward.
Right. 97-mile-an-hour guy.
I mean, he is as important for them moving forward as anyone in that bullpen.
Eric Young pinch hitting, had a base hit against Diekman last night.
But give me the 6'4", 225 guy. Let's make sure he doesn't throw more than 105. I mean, it's almost laughable, to tell you the truth.
Juan Lagares on deck. Diekman sails one away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Two one coming from Diekman, and Eric swings through the fastball. 2-2.
Interesting watching this young man. He's got all the tools, right? Throws the ball hard. It's just his hand position when he gets on top of the baseball. It's just so beautiful. Comes out of his hand great, and he's got the good tilt on his slider. Sometimes, like most pitchers, when he gets under it, that's the only time that the ball kind of straightens out for him.
So Carlos Torres up in the Mets bullpen. Young fouls back the fastball.
It's pretty simple. I mean, that's why he's an anomaly. He doesn't do too much. High leg kick from the stretch, and then just lets it go. I mean, just slingshots it up there at 95 plus. A real talent.
Again, the 2-2 to Eric Young. And he struck him out on the foul tip. Back-to-back strikeouts for Diekman to start the bottom of the 7th. Grabber on the majors brought to you by Hyundai. Visit buyhyundai.com today. D. Gordon continues to excel. Dodgers get 7 strong innings from Zach Greinke and beat the Giants 6-2. Miguel Cabrera is heating up, 3-run homer as the Tigers beat the Twins 9-3. Ryan Domit's double puts the Braves in front. Irvin Santana's thumb. It's okay. 7 scoreless innings so far.
Domit was a nice pickup for the Atlanta Braves.
Yep. Now Lagares bats with 2 out and nobody on. Juan has reached base twice tonight. Got hit on the hand by a pitch in the first inning, then walked to get the Mets 2-run 6th inning started. Came in to score. So he's been just like a leadoff hitter tonight. Mike Adams up in the bullpen. By the way, the Braves just added a 2nd run. Squeeze bunt. Tyler Pasternicki.
What's that?
That's where you, the runner at 3rd, He runs, and they lay down a bunt, and the runner scores.
Wow, what a unique, interesting play.
Toward the hole, a base hit for Lagares, and he's on base for the third time tonight.
Well, nice hitting by Lagares. This ball in and ball down. He hit a bullet to Jimmy Rollins early in the game. It hit about that hard, but it was right at Jimmy for an out.
So the tie-breaking run at first with 2 down. Here's Murphy. Daniel 1 for 3. Lined a base hit to left his last time up. He scored 2 runs tonight. This will probably be Diekman's last batter no matter what happens. Nice breaking ball to get ahead. You got David Wright standing on deck, who pummels lefties, and the Phillies get a righty up in the bullpen. David's already driven in 3 runs tonight. That slider misses. Ball and a strike.
Pitchers are funny. First slider he hung, so the second one he made sure he held on to it a little longer to make sure that one was in the dirt.
Two and one to Murphy.
We heard that Philadelphia bench chirp at Tim Timmons behind the plate, and he looked over.
I bet it was Bullock doing the chirping.
Sure it was.
Now 3 and 1. Well, remember when Bull managed the Phillies, he would be standing there muttering for 9 innings at his players, at the umpires, and anybody else.
He said the players changed. He didn't change.
Probably so. Bob McClure, the Philly pitching coach, seeing if the bullpen is ready. Diekman behind Murphy, 3 and 1. In the air to left field. Easy play for Dominic Brown. And that retires the side. A hit and 1 left. On we go to the 8th at Citi Field in a 4-4 game. To you by the New York Lottery. Hey, you never know. All that rain early tonight that delayed the start of the game for 39 minutes has cleared out, and we have a lovely night here at Citi Field. Keep on running.
You can count on one hand the kind of rain we saw before the game, right, Gary? I mean, that was as bad as I've seen.
That was I think the next coming after that was frogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Carlos Torres will pitch the 8th inning for New York.
We see his numbers. Carlos has been outstanding. Of course, got the lost in last night's game with that good pitch to Marlon Byrd, who got him.
Dominic Brown will lead it off against Torres in the 8th. Brown is 1 for 3, had a bloop single to center that drove in a run back in the first inning for the Phils. Brown, Ruiz, and Ashe against Torres in the 8th. And a strike called on the cutter, 0-1. Dylan G went the first 6, allowed 3 runs and 6 hits, was pulled after 81 pitches. Scott Rice, 2/3 of an inning, 1 run, 3 hits. Jerry's Familia faced 1 batter and struck him out. And Brown gets tied up, and he went around. Gabe Morales, the young third base umpire, makes it 0-2.
Saw that angle behind the catcher and umpire. See how wicked the cut is on that ball from Torres. Darno coming back in again.
Pulled to the right side. Murphy has the ball and throws him out. Nice play by Murphy on a ball that was past him. And he gets Brown 1 away.
Well, Brown has a full swing, so he doesn't get out of the box great. So you know you have a little extra time despite his speed. See, that's full swing and nice angle here taken by Murphy. Made a difficult play look pretty easy. Murphy prefers to be in the grass.
Now Carlos Ruiz is 0 for 3 tonight. Ruiz has seen Granderson make a sliding catch and seen Duda make a diving stop on balls he's hit tonight. Torres behind 2-0, and Ruiz takes it wide, 3-0. Here's a strike. Ruiz was going the wrong way. 3-1. And there's another.
Right on the corner, right? I think Ruiz might be a little gamesmanship here from the pitch he didn't get earlier.
3-2 coming, and he grounds one right at Flores. The one former 51er throws to the other. 2 out and nobody on. Tonight's game brought to you in high definition by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. I guess it's not a 51er, it's a 51.
Oh, there's no ER on it?
It's the 51s. Not like the 49ers. Who have the
Okay.
The Las Vegas 51s.
Just the 51s.
Just the 51s. No No
And it refers to an area, right?
Area 51.
Okay.
Here's Cody Ashe, 0 for 2 and a walk, and the curveball from Torres misses. Reed Brignac has come out on deck. He'll pinch hit if Ashe keeps the inning going. The Phillies 4 runs and 9 hits. The Mets 4 runs and 5 hits. We're in the 8th. And Ashe takes the cutter for a strike. 1-1. There's Brignac, who just joined the Phillies yesterday. Ball and 2 strikes to Ashe. Torres hoping to finish off a 1-2-3 inning. That's all of the heart of the order coming up in the bottom of the 8th. Tampa Bay beat Cleveland tonight 7-1. Eric Bedard 6 innings 1 hit for the Rays. Snaps a 4-game losing streak for Tampa. They've fallen into last place. 1-2. Fouled away.
But Bedard was a guy that was in their spring training, didn't make the team, could have been a free agent and went anywhere, decided to re-sign with a chance to come back to the team later, very much like Dice K.
Well, the Rays, for a change, don't have dominant starting pitching every day. 1-2. Hit sharply, but right at Murphy. He bobbles it, but has plenty of time to throw on edge. 3 ground ball outs for Torres in a 1-2-3 top of the 8th. David Wright leads off the bottom when we come back. Time about pre-pitch preparation. Watch Daniel Murphy on this last play.
What's nice about it is that, see how late he moves. When the pitch is going, he moves to his left, ball hit right in that exact spot. So what does that tell you at home? Is that he's looking at the catcher's signs. The catcher gives a sign that's going to be something maybe soft, down and in, a slider, change up, something like that. So the only way it's going to be hit is to be pulled, and that's why he jumped over there. But he didn't wait till too late, because if you jump over too early, it lets the hitter know.
Right. David Wright will lead off the bottom of the 8th. He's had a big night. Video recap brought to you by McDonald's.
Well, 0-2 pitch, mistake, of course, from Kendrick. Did not miss it. And then this is more of a fortunate hit. Good hustle by Bird. Kind of gets jammed with that high slider in, or cutter. And it works out for David and the Mets.
Homer double, 3 RBIs for Wright tonight. Now has 21 runs batted in for the year. It'll be Wright, Granderson, and Chris Young up for the Mets against the new Philly pitcher Mike Adams.
Well, Mike Adams pitched in last night's game. He was one of the more elite pitchers in the game on his comeback trail.
Coming off shoulder surgery, had a late start to his season. David 1 for 6 in his career against Adams. And Wright takes the cutter on the outside corner for a strike. Jake Diekman went an inning and 2/3 in relief. No runs, 1 hit. So Diekman an inning and a third last night. Inning and 2/3 tonight.
It's good for 2 tomorrow.
Granderson on deck. Then Chris Young. And Wright pokes one foul. 0-2. Cal Kendrick was the Phillies starter tonight. He went 5 1/3, allowed 4 runs, 4 hits. Final game of the series tomorrow. Matchup of lefties. Same 2 guys who played in the rain and cold in Philly. John Neese against Cole Hamels. Neese has thrived. Hamels has not. Adams ahead 0-2. And Wright lines one over Utley, base hit. Over comes Bird to cut it off. David Wright with his 3rd hit of the night, a leadoff single. And the Mets have the lead run aboard. Second hit on an 0-2 pitch for Wright tonight.
Well, it's nice to see David on the 0-2 pitch. Hit a home run off Kendrick. And here, driving that fastball over the head of the second baseman Utley. I mean, you'd love to see when David's starting to go coast to coast in the gaps. That's when you know he's getting hot.
Well, home run to left, pop fly double down the right field line, and now a line drive single to right center. So here's Granderson, who's 1 for 3. Single to center back in the 4th. Adams has really struggled against the lefties since coming back. Wright was about a half a step off the bag. And Curtis takes a fastball off the plate for ball 1. Chris Young waiting on deck.
Whenever I watch Granderson, the thing that's remarkable, he's able to stay in that position with that elbow up and hands up for such a long period of time.
Well, remember, Joe Morgan always wanted to keep his elbow up, but he flapped it to remind him.
But he holds it in that position for such a long time, and the way he takes the tension out is he drops his hands right before the pitch comes. Just a little drop of his hands to take the tension out, because you develop too much tension if you hold it that long. Watch the little drop. It's subtle, it's not much.
Mike Adams, who had his best day as a San Diego Padre. He was as good a setup man as there was for a period of a few years. Granderson pulls one toward the hole, base hit. Wright will pull in at second. So back-to-back hits for the 3 and 4 hitters to get the Mets started in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, this is a play that you don't always see that much anymore. You keep the hole open if you're right, and there's enough room to sneak it by Howard and Utley. No one on, of course, the shift gobbles up that ground ball. Hand drop, release the tension, hit a bullet. Nowhere for David to go. He eludes that ball, but he saw Bird throw for most of the summer.
Well, Chris Young has had 12 sacrifice bunts in his career, but none since 2011. He's 0 for his last 14. What do you do?
Bunts. He bunts here.
You got the rookie, Eric Campbell, who drove in a go-ahead run in his first big league plate appearance with standing on deck. Phillies have the corners in. Not quite sure what Young's going to be asked to do.
It's the situation as much as a player struggling.
And he gives himself up and takes outside, ball 1.
Now we've seen this before with Terry Collins. Ball 1. I've got a good fastball hitter up. He's put the bunt on first time. Does Adams counter with a fastball that Young can hit? Maybe I give him a chance to take a swing. I still would be bunting.
And again, he shows bunt and lays off, and it's 2-0.
Toughest call of the night right here. Terry talking to himself. But this would be the easiest time to bunt the baseball, because Adams has to throw one down the middle.
Still the bunt is on. And now it's 3-0. Well, now the bunt is off to take a pitch.
could do that kind of little league play. Remember when the guys kind of fake with the bat up and down? Let's just take a pitch here. Adams has put himself in all kinds of trouble.
Well, Eric Campbell might find himself in another go-ahead run position in a moment.
Mom, get your seat.
Get that camera ready again. She's jaded now. 3-0 now to Chris Young. And that's a strike.
It's not a strike. Ball's down.
Tim Timmons exchanging glances with Chris Young.
Just letting him know. I don't need to analyze that one, folks, right?
So now it's 3-1. He had the bunt on the first 3 pitches. He got a great hitter's count.
He's let you know that he is going to bunt the baseball. He's saying to Chris Young, hey, listen, this is a team at bat here. You've struggled a little. Here's a chance for you to help the team win.
Boy, I'd be inclined to take the bunt off.
Yeah?
Yep.
You're an aggressive personality.
I can hit a 3-run homer for you. But he is being asked to bunt. And he does beautifully. Forces Ashe to handle it. Very successful sacrifice bunt for Chris Young, his first in 3 years. And the Mets now have 2 in scoring position with 1 out.
You watch home run hitters all the time come up where they have to maybe lay a bunt down, and their form is horrendous. This is picture perfect. Gets that ball down hard enough to make Ashe field it. And you talked about the 3-run home run. What he's done now is given the Mets a chance with a base hit to get 2 runs.
Well, you've got 1 rookie at the plate in Campbell, another on deck in Flores. If you're the Phillies, what do?
Walk Campbell. I know he's a rookie, but you just saw him take a nice at bat to put the Mets ahead 4-3. You walk him and you go for the strikeout of Flores, pop up, or double play.
Eric Campbell came up as a pinch hitter with the bases loaded in the 6th. Play of the game brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. His sacrifice fly and his first swing in the big leagues gave the Mets a 4-3 lead.
Now the quickest respect in the history of the game.
Second plate appearance. Doesn't have an official at bat in the majors, and he gets an intentional walk.
Elias's computers are smoking right now. Stuff's jumping off the ceiling.
See, now the sac fly counts against his on-base percentage. So it'll only be a .500 on-base percentage. And after throwing ball 1, Ruiz goes out to the mound. Utley, I think, is incredulous about this. He doesn't want the intentional walk. How about that?
Well, but he doesn't. He's not the manager.
That was really odd.
I think it's got to be something different than that. I think it's got to be, hey, Mike Adams, make sure you come to a complete stop. Don't balk. Make sure Ruiz, although Ruiz now is crouched.
Yeah, they're pitching to him. So they threw intentional ball 1, and they've changed their mind.
Playing with his head.
Never seen this before.
First time.
So the infield is up, 2nd and 3rd and 1 out, and they figure maybe they can get the rookie to chase a pitch. Let's see what happens. 1-0 the count. And Campbell takes a strike.
That ball's down also.
Well,
I mean, I don't even know what to say about this.
But
I never argue balls and strikes.
That's a pitch we've seen Timmons call a strike several times, though, tonight.
Doesn't make it right.
Well, this was fascinating. I've never seen this before. Throw ball 1 of an intentional walk and then change your mind.
Just playing with his head.
Well, you can certainly understand that he might have kind of taken himself mentally out of the at-bat. Now he's got to be back in. 1-1 off the plate with a cutter. 2-1. Those are the numbers for Eric in AAA this year. He's a guy who's been in the minors for a long time and getting a chance at age 27 Got better and better over the course of his minor league career. Had a terrific spring training with the Mets. They kept him till the last possible cut. Took him to Montreal for those exhibition games right before the season.
Utley is ever a manager someday. It'll be his second move in his first game because he's made one tonight.
Right as the go-ahead run at third. Granderson at second with one out. Two and one to Eric Campbell. And he checks his swing. Did he go? He went around. Milwaukee with the call, and it's 2-2.
Well, the hard part here is that you've had a called strike on a ball down. So you know that that's going to be called, but that ball's out of the strike zone. Your goal for Adams is to get him to raise his pitches. Can't do that now with 2 strikes. Anything close, got to try to put it in play.
Campbell was able to hit a fly ball to get a run home in his first plate appearance. Now he's got to get the ball in play here. Second and third, one out. 2-2 from Adams. Strike 3 called, and Campbell knew it. So after feigning the intentional pass, the Phillies go after Campbell and get him on a call third strike. 2 out.
Well, perfect pitch there. Fastball catches all of the plate, but utterly had to confuse the rookie in his first game. Confused me.
The fake intentional walk. That's got to be a first. Remind me of Dan Marino faking the spike at the Meadowlands. It's an ugly memory. Here's Wilmer Flores, second and third and 2 out. Flores 0 for 3 tonight. See if you can pick up Campbell. And Adams just missed with that cutter. Ball 1.
How about a base hit from Flores so we don't have to talk about it? Makes it a moot point.
Travis d'Arnaud would be next. Wright and Granderson began the inning with base hits. Chris Young asked to bunt, got the perfect bunt down, but then Campbell called out on strikes for the second out. It leaves it in the hands of Flores.
Well, we hear about a lot of people trying to reinvent the game. I think we just witnessed it.
It'd be very interesting to get the post-mortem on that, whether it was Utley changing the mind of the manager or how that went. Wilmer grounds one foul off his leg. A ball and a strike.
I think this one comes back and gets him in the shin. See that front shin?
Wilmer had 2 hits last night after hitting .307 at Las Vegas. Mets have already had 1 rookie driving a go-ahead run tonight. Flores trying to do the same. 4-4 in the 8th. Up and in. 2-1.
The Phillies get through this inning. They are the talk of the town.
We saw Dick Williams over 40 years ago with the fake intentional walk on a 3-2 pitch.
That's right.
This one, the fake intentional walk with ball 1. That's off the plate, and now Adams behind Flores 3-1.
Here Adams say, Timmons, that is not a ball. That's not outside. Said it's not outside. It's a good pitch. Seen Chuch Ruiz get that pitch a lot.
Walk to Flores would bring d'Arnaud to the plate with the bases full. Adams behind 3-1. And Flores lofts one foul. Full count.
Whenever he gets behind, Adams likes to go to his slider. Head down trying to think what pitch is going to go with. Surprised Campbell with that pitch. Fastball that throws him outside. That to me feels like the pitch here.
3-2 to Wilmer Flores. Ball 4, and they're loaded up for d'Arnaud. There's nobody behind Adams right now in the Philly bullpen. He's had to do a lot of heavy lifting already here in the 8th inning. 2 hits and a walk have loaded him up. D'Arnaud due up, but Bobby Abreu is going to come out of the dugout to bat for D'Arnaud.
And either Bastardo is not available or Adams stays.
Well, they didn't have Bastardo or anybody else up in the bullpen, so Adams will have to pitch to Abreu, who is 1 for 2 against him in his career.
It's amazing in these kind of situations sometimes. You're lucky as a manager with all that experience, from Ruiz to Rollins, Utley, Howard, Adams himself, can almost figure a way yourself to get out of the inning. But this is a great matchup for the Mets.
Bobby Abreu never got off the bench last night in the 11-inning loss. His last at bat came Wednesday afternoon in Miami when he struck out against Tom Kohler. Bats here in a game-breaking situation. 4-4 bottom of the 8th with the bases loaded and 2 out. One thing we know about Abreu, he will not expand his strike zone. He'll be very willing to take that bases loaded walk if it comes to that. And he takes one at his feet for ball 1.
So what's the story here in the 8th inning? The fake intentional walk or Abreu against his original team?
Abreu had many starring seasons with Philadelphia. Carlos Torres is out on deck because, well, if he comes to bat, the Mets will have the lead. So he may just stay in there and bat. One to 0 to Abreu with the bases full. And he grounds one back to the pitcher, Adams. And somehow Mike Adams, with the help from a fake intentional walk, is able to escape the 8th inning. The Mets lead 3, tied at 4. To you by McDonald's. Start your morning off right at McDonald's with any size hot or iced coffee for just $1. Well, a lot of conversation in the Phillies dugout after that abortive intentional walk. It worked out perfectly for Philadelphia.
Well, Ruiz is explaining it to A.J. Burnett. It's almost like, let's just play with his head. Let's get him out of the at-bat like he thinks he's going to run it first. Just play with his head, see what happens. Ball 1. Oh, I mean, I'm making all this stuff up, but that's how it feels to me.
There's going to be a lot of very interesting debriefing of both managers when this game is over. Talked earlier about the questions to Terry Collins about why Dylan G came out after 81 pitches, and now just the way it was orchestrated by the Phillies made it look so interesting.
Remember, Ryne Sandberg played for a manager, Don Zimmer, who hit and run with the bases loaded.
It's true.
So he's seen just about everything.
Well, if they planned it that way, that makes it even more spectacular. Kyle Farnsworth will come into pitch. Anthony Recker will catch as we go to the ninth after Darno was pulled for the pinch hitter Abreu. Tony Gwynn Jr. will be the pinch hitter for the Phillies against Farnsworth, who worked a hitless ninth inning last night. So here we are again. Mets and Phillies tied in the ninth. Gwynn, the pinch hitter, corners in against him, and he drops down a beauty of a bunt right with a bare hand play, throws him out. Gorgeous play by David Wright, one away.
I can say simply, he's the best I've ever seen. And Farnsworth made a great choice of not picking that baseball up. Let David Wright, best in the business with the bare hand, made that play look easy.
Nolan Arenado may win the Gold Glove. David gets the golden hand. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Ben Revere, 1 for 4, singled, stole a base, scored a run back in the first.
You know, it's interesting watching all the players. This is the first warm night they played in. All of them rosy cheeked.
Well, David's had a big night, single, double, home run, and now that fine bare hand play to get the first out here in the top of the ninth. And David stays in on the grass against the bunt threat from Revere. And he takes a strike from Farnsworth. And the Mets used 7 pitchers last night. They're on their 5th pitcher tonight after Carlos Torres worked a 1-2-3-8. Jimmy Rollins on deck. He's working on a big night. Phillies 4 runs and 9 hits. The Mets 4 runs and 7 hits. Ball and a strike to Revere. Pittsburgh beats St. Louis again tonight, 4-3. It's 4 straight wins for the Pirates. They inch their way back toward 500 after a brutal start.
Promise you, at some point after the game, you're going to hear Ryne Sandberg tell you a story about being, because remember, unlike a lot of these new managers who've just jumped right into the big leagues, he went down and paid his dues. There's going to be a story behind this, that Sioux City, Iowa, or somewhere where it happened.
Well, he couldn't have picked a better spot for it. You know, a kid in his first day in the major leagues, and you mess with his head like that, thinks he's got an intentional walk, and all of a sudden he's got to face a tough at bat, and the Phillies got exactly the result they wanted.
Well, Eric, you made the news.
Farnsworth really taking a lot of time here.
He did in last night's ball game also, almost like either he and Recker have not been able to get together, or it's almost he's got to get his body physically in the right place to let it go.
Now the 1-2, and Revere chases the slider out of the strike zone. 2 out of the inning.
Oh, nice pitch. It's that little backdoor slider that never comes back on the plate, but Revere chases it.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jimmy Rollins, who's 3 for 4 tonight, has scored 3 runs, including his 4th home run of the year back in the second. The Phillies got 2 in the first and 1 in the second off Dylan G. David Wright had a 2-run homer in the first off Kyle Kendrick. Mets took the lead in the 6th. Phillies tied it in the 7th. And it could have been a whole lot worse for the Mets in that 7th, but for Chase Utley making a base running blunder and getting thrown out trying to steal third. That enabled Scott Rice, with help from J. Reese Familia, to wiggle out of that inning. Mike Adams pitched out of a very tough jam in the bottom of the 8th, and so we stayed tied in the 9th. Rollins takes a strike. Braves won tonight. They shut out the Cubs 2-0 behind Irvin Santana, who came back from a thumb problem to pitch 7 scoreless. Jonathan Papelbon in case there's a save chance. Mario Hollins if there's not. One from Farnsworth, and Rollins takes a strike. Off speed pitch that time by Farnsworth to get ahead 1-2. Chase Utley would be next.
You know, we always have all these numbers, pitcher, hitter, over the course of their careers. But this is the Farnsworth that they faced 4 or 5 years ago. Totally different pitcher.
Used to throw 98, 99. Just try and blow you away. He's not that guy anymore. Although we've seen him dial it up to 94, 95 when he's had to. Ahead on Rollins 1-2. And his feet 2-2.
Notice how red the guys are. I mean, it really is the first game here that you're watching the guys play in kind of humid night.
Well, even the games in Miami when it was warm, it wasn't that humid.
Yeah.
Two coming to Rollins. And he checks the swing on the fastball away. There was the 95 from Farnsworth. Full count. Three-two, and he walked him. Rollins on base for the 4th time tonight, and that brings Utley to the plate. Unlike last night when Met pitchers walked 11, that's only the 2nd walk of the night for Met pitching.
Big walk though with Rollins. Let's see if the Phillies have been aggressive this entire series running. I think Utley's going to give him a strike to try to get that base.
Utley's driven in 2 runs tonight with a double and a sacrifice fly. Officially 1 for 2. Rollins with 5 steals and 7 tries this year. Been an elite base stealer for a long time, and a close play. Campbell gets the tag down, but he gets back safely.
Farnsworth has a good move for a tall right-hander.
He's not going to lose track of Rollins. Utley watches low and away, ball 1. Nobody up behind Farnsworth in the Mets bullpen. Ryan Howard is on deck.
Take that back. I said Utley's going to take a strike. He feels so good up there, swings so good. I think that if he gets a pitch, he's going to be swinging.
Rollins measuring that lead. Utley cracks one into right for a base hit. Rollins will head to third. And the Phillies have runners at the corners with 2 out and Ryan Howard coming up. Utley with his 2nd hit of the night.
He just felt that he was going to be aggressive and jump all over the pitch, and he did. Granderson was playing no doubles, so he was so deep he was able to cut that ball off. But instead of throwing a second, he made sure he threw it back into the cutoff guy, just in case Rollins was thinking of trying to come home.
Never know.
Yep.
Might have tried to be aggressive there. Dan Worthen's going to go out to the mound to talk to Farnsworth before he pitches to Howard, who's had a big night. Howard is 3 for 4. So Farnsworth retired the first 2. Wright throwing out Gwynn on the bunt attempt, then he struck out Revere, but a walk to Rollins, a base hit for Utley. By the way, Chase Utley right now looks like 2008.
He does. He looks like he's going to hit a double every time he comes to the plate. I mean, this discussion really is Farnsworth has been around enough. He knows how to pitch to guys or pitch around guys. And probably Dan Worthen just asking him, do you want to face the big man or pitch around him? And I think he's just going to be careful with him.
He got Howard out on a ground ball into the shift last night. Now Rollins the go-ahead run at third with 2 down in the top of the 9th. Howard 2 singles and a double tonight. Swings and flies one down the left side. And that'll make it into the crowd. Nice catch. Always bring your glove.
Lefty.
See the numbers for Howard. 1 home run in 4 at bats against Farnsworth. In tight to Howard. Ball and a strike. Marlon Byrd on deck. Wright's playing well off the line with Howard up, so Rollins can get a big lead at third.
But he hasn't faked it all, so I think he knows that Howard doesn't like anyone moving too much over third base.
And he tries to tie up Howard. 2 balls and a strike.
If your teammate's long enough, Gary, you say, please don't move over there third. I'm just trying to concentrate on this at bat.
But he doesn't have to move. He can still take a longer lead. So on a short wild pitch, he might have a better chance to score. Surprised he's hanging so close to the bag. 2-1 from Farnsworth, and Howard fouls it back. 2-2.
Boy, that was interesting there. Campbell was asking the bench for help. What should you do with Utley as this pitch comes inside to Howard, just up enough to get it by the big man? Because they're not holding him on. Utley could take second if he wanted to.
It's 2-2 to Ryan Howard. Line drive base hit, and the Phillies take the lead. Howard's 4th hit of the game brings in Jimmy Rollins with the lead run, and the Phillies go up 5-4 in the top of the 9th. Big night for Ryan Howard, and the Phillies lead again.
Well, they tried to go upstairs, but they had already thrown 3 pitches in the same spot. And that ball a little down from where they wanted it. He wanted about chest high. And Utley applauds.
Howard will leave for a pinch runner. John Mayberry will run for him at first. So after Farnsworth retired the first 2 in the 9th, a walk to Rollins opened the door. Utley and Howard burst through with base hits, and the Phillies go in front. Now Marlon Byrd will bat with 2 out and 2 on. Farnsworth has seen this inning get away, but he's got a huge out to get here. to give the Mets a chance in the bottom of the ninth. Mets will have Recker, Lagares, and Murphy up, and if anybody gets on, David Wright will get another turn. And Bird lays off, and Farnsworth's behind 2-0. Dominic Brown would be next. Phillies now with 5 runs and 11 hits. Here's a strike. 2-1. Well, among all active players, the 3 Phillies are at the top of the leaderboard in RBIs against the Mets. Part of that is a lot of games for guys who played for this team for a lot of years.
Well, I've been here for a while. I've seen the damage.
Bird hits it sharply, but right at Flores, makes the flip to Murphy. That ends the inning, but a 2-out rally by the Phillies leads to the go-ahead run. Howard puts the Phillies in front 5-4 going to the bottom of the ninth. Picks 11. The Mets and Yankees this Monday at 7 p.m. here on New York's Picks 11. Changes for the Phillies as we go to the bottom of the ninth. John Mayberry, who pinch ran, stays in the game at first base. Tony Gwynn, who pinch hit, stays in center. And Jonathan Papelbon, who got his 10th save last night, will go for number 11 tonight.
296 in his career for Pap. A little different pitcher now. A guy that used to come in, throw 95 plus, blow you away, occasional split finger. You'll see a breaking ball occasionally. You'll see fastball and split finger.
He pitched a 1-2-3 11th inning last night. He'll face Recker, Lagares, and Murphy here in the ninth. David Wright due up 4th in the inning. Papelbon has recorded 13 consecutive scoreless innings coming into tonight. He has been the most reliable piece in an otherwise shaky Philadelphia bullpen. But the Met bullpen giving up a run in the 7th and a run in the 9th as the Phillies have come from behind to grab a 5-4 lead in the 9th. Recker up for the first time. Came in after Darno left for a pinch hitter in the 8th. And Anthony takes ball 1. Recker getting his first look at Papelbon. Mike Adams worked out of an untenable situation in the 8th and now stands to be the winning pitcher for the Phils. Outside slider. Ball and a strike.
That famous kind of pursed lip stare by Papelbon.
Yeah, it's the same one he gave to Omir Santos and Jordani Valdespin.
That's one of my favorite games of all time.
The Santos game?
Yes, by far.
That was Mets down to their last out in Boston, and Santos hit one over the monster that had to be confirmed on video review. That put the Mets in front, but then they had to survive the bottom of the ninth, and they made a very tough play in the field, and that was the game. Papelbon burst out of the dugout.
Keith and I told him, go sit down.
Like simultaneously.
Ramon Martinez was the shortstop for the Mets that day. Made a great play to end it.
I think the one that got Papelbon, though, was the right to Castillo force play.
That's right.
Which I think was either the first or second out. And he came flying out of the dugout.
Well, you gotta love Pap. He's the kind of guy that pitches on lots of emotion, cut his teeth in that American League East.
Record waiting on Papelbon. 2-2 coming. Record checks a swing. It's in there for a call, strike 3. 1 down.
But we saw a lot of low called strikes from Timmons. Record thought that ball was up.
Your AT&T fan photo of the day. Oh, that's just precious. Hello, Erica. Juan Lagares has been on base 3 times tonight. Hit by pitch, walk, single to left, 1 for 2. 1 out and nobody on. And Lagares hits one in the air to right center. Converging on the ball, Gwynn and Bird at the last moment makes the catch. That was almost big trouble for the Phillies. But it's the second out.
Well, Tony's got to know he's not in the same weight class, so he's got to stay out of there. Marlon got that.
So now the Mets are down to their final out. And Daniel Murphy will try and keep him alive and get another chance for David Wright. Murphy's 1 for 4 tonight. And he takes one off the plate from Papelbon, ball 1. Murphy's done well against Papelbon, 3 hits and 6 career at bats. There's a strike, 1-1. .33-year-old Jonathan Papelbon, 4 saves away from 300 for his career. Two and 1. Coming up next on Pix 11, it's the Pix 11 News. And on SNY, it's WB Mason post-game live. Plenty to dissect from this game.
It's the one time you want to see the visiting team's press conference over the home teams, if it stays the same.
2-1 coming to Murphy. Ball 3. Murphy has to get on base any way he can to give the Mets a chance, with David Wright looming on deck. Ball 4, and Murphy's aboard. And David Wright will stride to the plate with the tying run at first base.
How about the split finger? 3-1 to Murphy. Interesting choice of pitches by Papelbon.
It's been a big night for Wright. He broke a long home run drought with a 2-run shot in the first. In a fly ball double that drove in a run in the sixth, and singled hard into right center in the eighth. 3 for 4 on the night. He faced Papelbon last night and struck out to start the 11th inning. He's got a chance to get him tonight. Tying run at first with 2 out. And Wright takes a strike.
Papelbon just crossfires enough, Gary, to make it a little more difficult for the right-handed hitter.
There goes Murphy. Ruiz with the throw, not in time. Murphy steals the base, his 7th of the year. And the tying run is in scoring position.
We talk all the time, don't we? Steal a base when you need to steal a base. Fastball up, a perfect pitch for Ruiz. But Papelbon was paying no attention to Murphy, and he gets in there. Big steal for the Murph and the Mets.
So now a base hit could tie it for New York. The outfield, which was playing no doubles, moves in a little bit. And David pops one up. Howard and Mayberry in foul ground is there, and the ball game is over. Papelbon hangs on. More frustration for the Mets. Their 5th consecutive loss. Ryan Howard with the go-ahead hit in the top of the 9th. And Murphy steals the base, but Wright fouls out to end it. And the Mets have now lost 5 straight and 8 of their last 9 as the Phillies win 5-4.
Well, you want a signature moment as a manager of a ball club? Ryne Sandberg just got his for the Phillies in the 8th inning. With 2 outs here in the 9th, though, David frustrated that he can't come up